My name is Katie, and I'm a nurse. My husband, Jack, is a full-time house husband now. He used to work for a company, but he quit because he didn't get along with his new boss. When Jack told me he quit, I was angry because he didn't talk to me about it first, but I tried to think positively and figured it was better that he quit before he got too stressed. Even though Jack isn't working now, I have a steady job as a nurse, and the house we live in was given to me by my mom, who passed away a few years ago, so we don't have to pay rent and are doing fine financially. At first, I was worried and stressed about Jack not working, but he was doing a good job with the housework, and I started getting used to the situation and even enjoying it. One day, I came home from work to find Jack's sister, Brittany, visiting. "Welcome home, hope you had a great day at work," Jack said. "Oh, I forgot to tell you Brittany was coming over, sorry about that." I was a bit annoyed, but seeing Jack so cheerful made me feel better. "It's okay, but next time, please let me know beforehand," I said. Jack promised to do that and told Brittany it was time for her to leave. Brittany didn't want to leave and said, "I'd like to stay the night. This house is so big and nice." Jack quickly said, "No, it's too sudden, Brittany, please go home today." Brittany left, looking angry, and I asked Jack, "Why did Brittany come over today? She lives so far away." Brittany had recently gotten a divorce and didn't have a place to stay, so she was living with our parents, but their apartment was small, and they were pressuring her to find a job and contribute money, so she wasn't feeling welcome. I felt bad for her. Jack explained, "I'm sorry, I didn't want to be alone. I let Brittany in because I needed someone to talk to." I was upset with Jack, but I understood he needed support. "Okay, but next time, call me first and make sure she leaves before I get home," I said. 2 days later, Jack texted me while I was at work, "Brittany wants to come over again. I'll make sure she leaves before 9 p.m., like you asked." I didn't want Brittany over again so soon, but Jack seemed happy, so I agreed, "Fine, but make sure she leaves on time." When I came home, Brittany was still there. "Why is she still here?" I asked. Jack immediately apologized. "I'm sorry, I got carried away talking to her. She'll leave now." Brittany packed up, looking annoyed, and left. I didn't like her attitude and said, "She's acting like this is her house, doesn't she have any manners?" Jack defended her, "She came all this way just to talk to me." I thought they could have met somewhere else, but I was too tired to argue. "Sorry, I'm just tired, I'm going to bed now." Jack seemed like he wanted to say more, but I was already heading to bed. The next day, I had the day off and was relaxing at home when Jack said, "I'm sorry about yesterday. After thinking it over, I realized I was wrong. I wanted you and Brittany to get along, but the timing was off." I realized I hadn't had much time to talk to Jack lately, and I understood how much he wanted us to get along. I said, "I see, I've been so busy, I haven't made time for us. I said too much yesterday, I'm sorry." Jack was happy we could talk it out. He smiled and said, "Okay, I'll make your favorite, meatball pasta, it's coming right up." He started cooking, but then his phone rang. "Who's calling?" I asked. Jack replied, "Oh, it's Brittany, I wonder what she wants." I had a bad feeling and didn't want him to pick it up, but I said, "Maybe it's something urgent." Jack picked up the phone, and although I couldn't hear what Brittany was saying, the call ended quickly. "So, what did Brittany want?" I asked. Jack said, "She wants to tell me something, so she's coming over." I didn't understand why I had to see her on my day off, and I felt annoyed, but since she was already on her way, I didn't say anything. Jack happily said, "I'll make pasta for Brittany too," and kept cooking. He didn't notice that I was upset, and I couldn't understand why he didn't tell her no, but I decided this might be my chance to talk to her myself. About 10 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Since Brittany lived far away, I didn't expect her to show up so soon, but when I opened the door, it was Brittany. She had big luggage with her, and I instantly felt uneasy, but I let her in. Jack was still cooking, so I asked Brittany, "What happened?" She looked like she had been crying and said, "I got kicked out of my parents' place. They said I can't stay with them because I'm not working. They're horrible, right?" My bad feeling was getting worse as I listened to her. Jack overheard and said, "That's awful. Family is supposed to help each other. They're terrible parents." I was really upset by what Jack said, but since it wasn't my place to say anything, I kept quiet and listened. Brittany said, "I have nowhere to go, so I need to stay here." I really didn't want Brittany to stay with us, and I was about to say something, but before I could, Jack said. Well, if that's the case, she'll have to stay here. We have a spare room, so she can stay with us from today. I gave Jack a glare, and he said, Why are you looking at me like that? Brittany needs help. I couldn't take it anymore and said, What are you talking about? Don't make decisions without talking to me. You're not working, and Brittany isn't either, right? I can't support both of you on my own. Suddenly, something hit me on the head, and I didn't know what happened. Then I heard Brittany laughing and saying, Jack, don't throw an egg at her. When I touched my hair, I realized there were eggshells in it. Jack said, It's your fault, Mary, you need to be nicer to Brittany. Then he added, If you keep acting like this, we'll get divorced, and if we do, you'll have to leave the house, you know? Jack looked at me with a proud smile, and Brittany looked at me with a smug expression. They thought I was going to give in, so they asked, Mary, are you going to apologize? Go take a shower, and then we can eat the meatball pasta Jack made and talk about how we're all going to live together. Jack happily went back to finishing lunch, and Brittany sat on the couch, relaxing and watching TV. I had a lot to say, but for now, I just grabbed Brittany's luggage and threw it off the balcony. They were shocked by what I did and asked, What are you doing? Are you crazy? Jack panicked and told me to go get the luggage, but I said, Why should I? This is my house. I won't let you do whatever you want anymore. Jack said, What are you talking about? This is our house, as husband and wife. This is my house too, and I'm letting my sister stay here. I just laughed and said, What's so funny? This house was given to me by my mom, so you have no right to it. Jack and Brittany were both surprised and said, Wait, really? But even if that's true, since we're still married, it doesn't matter. They started mumbling, so I said, This house is mine. If you want to live with your sister so badly, then rent a house and live with her. And why should I support two people who don't work? I told Jack, You used to work hard before you quit, so I didn't say anything, but lately, you're not doing any housework either. Honestly, I'd rather live alone. Jack seemed shocked by what I said and replied, Oh, so that's what you've been thinking? I said, I don't want a husband who doesn't take care of the family and can't even thank me for working and supporting us. Just then, Jack pulled out a divorce paper. I thought it was strange that he had it ready, and I realized that Brittany had probably planned this all along. I've already filled out my part, so all you have to do is fill in yours. I'll give you some time to think. When you're ready to apologize, just contact me. Okay, they replied, and left. I quickly took a shower, signed the divorce papers, and went to submit them. I figured my husband only showed me the divorce papers to scare me, even though it was Brittany's idea. Jack went through with it, and I didn't want a husband who would do that to me. A few days later, Jack called and asked, Are you ready to apologize? I was so angry and didn't want to waste time on this. Shouldn't you be the one calling me first? I replied. Jack sounded like he was looking down on me, so I said, What do you mean? Why am I calling you? Why should I contact you? A stranger to me now? He didn't seem to understand the situation, so I decided to be clear. I've already submitted the divorce papers, and it's finalized, so now we're strangers. Oh, and I sold the house. Even if you want to come back, it doesn't matter. I also quit my job and am starting fresh somewhere else. And by the way, I sent all your stuff to your parents' house. It should be arriving soon. I'm not sure, though, because their place is so small. Will everything fit? Jack seemed confused and angry on the phone. I could hear him arguing with someone. Anyway, you were the one who wanted a divorce, right? I have nothing more to say to you. I'm blocking you now. Goodbye. Jack yelled something, but I hung up and blocked his number. A few months later, I visited the place where I used to live. On my way home, I stopped by a supermarket and saw someone who looked like Jack, working there. He seemed to have made a mistake at work, and a younger woman was telling him, How many times do I have to explain this to you? Don't make me repeat myself. Other workers were laughing at him, and I felt a little sorry for him, but I reminded myself that he was a stranger to me now. Maybe if Jack had thought more about how to handle his sister, things wouldn't have turned out this way. But now, I'm happy I divorced him. I'm enjoying my life on my own.
The crystal champagne flute shattered in my hand, sending shards across the marble floor of my brother's new mansion. Blood trickled down my palm, but I barely noticed. My eyes were fixed on Jessica's face as she announced her pregnancy to our stunned family gathering. I'm Maya, and I know when someone is lying. 15 years of raising 3 boys has given me a sixth sense about deception. The way Jessica's fingers twitched against her designer dress, how her smile never quite reached her eyes. Everything screamed false. Congratulations! Mark, my husband, stepped forward to hug Alex while shooting me a warning glance. He knew my tells too. The slight tilt of my head, the way I pressed my lips together, signs I was about to say something I shouldn't. This calls for more champagne, Alex declared, beaming with pride. My brother, the successful tech entrepreneur, finally getting everything he wanted. A baby to complete his perfect life. Tyler, my middle son, appeared at my side with a napkin. Mom, you're bleeding. His quiet voice anchored me back to reality. I wrapped the cloth around my palm, watching the red bloom through the white fabric. When are you due? I asked Jessica, keeping my voice light. She hesitated for a fraction too long. March, she said, one hand resting protectively over her still flat stomach. Wrong move. I'd been pregnant 3 times. No woman that early touches her stomach that way unless she's acting. Ryan, my eldest, was watching the exchange with narrowed eyes. At 18, he had inherited my bullshit detector. Lucas, my youngest, had already retreated to a corner with his phone, typical 14-year-old behavior. We should toast, Mark announced, trying to diffuse the tension crackling through the room. To Alex and Jessica's growing family. Everyone raised their glasses except me. I was too busy watching Jessica's face as she pretended to sip her champagne. The glass never touched her lips. Actually, Alex cleared his throat. We have another announcement. He glanced at Jessica, who gave him an encouraging nod. We've been thinking about adoption, too. Having a bigger family, maybe? The room went silent. I felt Mark's hand squeeze my shoulder. We thought, Jessica continued, her voice honey-sweet, that since you have 3 wonderful boys, Maya... She let the sentence hang there, heavy with implication. The cut on my palm throbbed. What exactly are you suggesting? Nothing concrete, Alex jumped in. Just floating the idea. Ryan's heading to college soon and we have so much space here. Stop. The word came out sharper than I intended. Just stop right there. Maya, Mark warned softly. But I was already moving toward Jessica, who took an involuntary step back. First a miracle pregnancy, now you want one of my sons? What's your game? I don't know what you mean, Jessica's voice wavered. We just want to share our blessings. Bullshit. The word echoed through the massive living room. You've barely spoken 10 words to my boys in the 2 years you've been with Alex. Now suddenly you want to play mom? That's enough. Alex stepped between us, his face flushed. You're out of line, Maya. Am I? I looked at my brother, really looked at him. The dark circles under his eyes, the slight tremor in his hands. What's really going on here, Alex? Before he could answer, Jessica suddenly pressed a hand to her mouth and rushed from the room, the perfect excuse to end the conversation. I should check on her, Alex muttered, following his wife. Mark came up behind me, wrapping an arm around my waist. Well, that was quite a party. I watched my 3 sons huddled together, whispering. Ryan's protective stance, Tyler's concerned frown, Lucas's defiant glare. My boys. My family. Something's not right, I said quietly, and I'm going to find out what it is. Just don't do anything rash, Mark replied, but we both knew it was too late for that warning. The game was already in motion, and I intended to win. 3 days after the disastrous pregnancy announcement, I stood in Alex's empty kitchen, staring at the prescription bottle I'd found hidden behind the coffee maker. The label had been partially scratched off, but I could make out enough to know these weren't vitamins. Looking for something? Jessica's voice made me jump. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching me with those calculating eyes. I held up the bottle. Fertility medications, interesting place to keep them. You shouldn't snoop through other people's things. Her voice was steady, but her fingers dug into her arms. And you shouldn't lie about being pregnant to my brother. The silence stretched between us like a rubber band about to snap. From the living room, I could hear Mark and Alex laughing about something, the sound jarring against our tension. You don't understand, Jessica finally said. Alex needs this. Needs what? A fake pregnancy? Or one of my children? She moved closer, lowering her voice. He's sick, Maya. Really sick. The doctors gave him 6 months, maybe less. The bottle nearly slipped from my hand. You're lying. Am I? Why do you think he's so desperate for an heir? For family? Her perfect mask cracked slightly. He won't tell you because he can't stand the idea of you pitying him. If this is another manipulation, Ryan already knows. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? Your perfect eldest son has been spending time with us, helping Alex get his affairs in order. He understands what's at stake. My phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. Coming over to Uncle Alex's. Need to talk to you. You stay away from my son, I hissed. But Jessica just smiled. He came to us, Maya, because he sees the bigger picture, the legacy Alex could leave him, the opportunities. The front door opened and Ryan's voice carried through the house. Mom? In here, I called, not taking my eyes off Jessica. Ryan entered the kitchen, freezing when he saw us. At 18, he looked so much like Alex at that age, the same determined jaw, the same ambitious glint in his eyes. I see you two are talking, he said carefully. Your aunt was just explaining how you've been helping Uncle Alex. The words tasted bitter. Behind my back. Mom, don't. I held up my hand. Just tell me if it's true, about Alex being sick. Ryan's silence was answer enough. Jessica slipped past us, pausing at the door. I'll give you two a moment. Once she was gone, Ryan slumped against the counter. I wanted to tell you, but Uncle Alex made me promise. How long have you known? 2 months. He collapsed during one of our lunch meetings. I drove him to the hospital. The bottle in my hand suddenly felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. And the adoption idea? Was that yours or hers? His. He wants to make sure his company stays in the family. Jessica, she just wants what's best for him. I laughed, harsh and hollow. Best for him or best for her? Why do you hate her so much? Because she's lying about something. I can feel it. I set the bottle down carefully. And now she's using you to manipulate this situation. Nobody's using me. Ryan straightened, looking more like his uncle than ever. I'm making my own choices. Are you? Or are you just seeing dollar signs and opportunities? The moment the words left my mouth, I knew I'd gone too far. Ryan's face hardened. You don't get to judge me, not when you've spent years telling us to look out for family. Well, Uncle Alex's family too. He stormed out, leaving me alone with the damning evidence of Jessica's deception and the weight of too many secrets. Mark appeared in the doorway. Everything okay? Ryan just left looking pretty upset. I picked up the fertility medication bottle and handed it to him. We need to talk about Alex, Jessica, and what they're really planning for our family. His eyes widened as he read the label, then looked at me. What do you want to do? First, I'm going to find out exactly what kind of game Jessica's playing. Then, I took the bottle back, clutching it tight. I'm going to make sure she loses. The private investigator's file landed on my kitchen table with a dull thud. Jessica Mitchell doesn't exist, he said, at least not before 2019. I flipped through the documents, each page revealing another lie. What was her name before? Sarah Winters, then Rachel Cooper, then Elizabeth James. He tapped different photos, showing the same face under different names. She's got a pattern. Wealthy men, short marriages, generous divorces. My coffee went cold as I absorbed the implications. 3 previous marriages, each ending with substantial settlements. Each husband mysteriously ill during the divorce proceedings. My phone buzzed. Tyler. Mom, something's wrong with Uncle Alex. At hospital, come quick. The drive to the hospital was a blur of red lights and racing thoughts. I found Tyler in the waiting room, his usual calm demeanor cracked. He collapsed during lunch with Ryan, he said. They won't tell us anything because we're not immediate family. Jessica's in there with him. Where's your brother? Ryan's, with her. The way he said it made my skin crawl. I spotted them down the hall, Jessica and Ryan heads bent together in conversation. The sight of my son standing so close to her, nodding at whatever poison she was whispering, made my hands shake. Mrs. Wilson? A doctor approached, chart in hand. Your brother's asking for you. Alex looked small in the hospital bed, tubes snaking from his arms. Hey, sis. He managed a weak smile. Sorry for the drama. Cut the bullshit, I said, closing the door. I know about Jessica's other husbands. His face didn't register surprise, just resignation. How long have you known? Long enough. The question is, how long have you known? He closed his eyes. Since before the wedding. I hired someone to investigate her past after I found some inconsistencies in her story. And you married her anyway? Because I loved her. Love her. He coughed, harsh and wet, and because by then the cancer was already stage 4. The truth hit like a physical blow. You're not just sick, you're dying. 6 months was optimistic. It's spreading faster than they thought. His hand trembled as he reached for water. Jessica knows everything. About her past, about my prognosis. We made a deal. A deal. She stays, plays the grieving widow, gets her settlement. In exchange, she helps secure Ryan's future in the company. My blood ran cold. You're using my son as a pawn? I'm securing his future, my legacy. Alex's voice strengthened with conviction. Ryan has the drive, the intelligence, with Jessica's guidance. Her manipulation, you mean? I leaned closer. She's done this before, Alex. 3 times. And each husband died under suspicious circumstances during divorce proceedings. He waved off my concern. Those were different. She loves me. Like she loved the others? Did you even check how they died? A nurse knocked, entering with medication. I stepped back, watching Jessica slip in behind her, Ryan hovering in the doorway. Everything okay in here? Jessica's voice dripped concern, but her eyes were sharp. Just fine, I replied, matching her tone. Alex was telling me about your arrangement. Something flickered across her perfect mask. Fear? Anger? She recovered quickly, moving to Alex's side. Darling, you should rest. Mom, Ryan started, but I cut him off. Not now. I headed for the door, pausing beside my son. We'll talk about this at home. In the hallway, Tyler waited with Lucas, who had finally arrived. Is Uncle Alex okay? I looked at my younger sons, untouched by Jessica's influence, and made a decision. No, he's not, and neither is your brother. What do you mean? Lucas asked. Through the window, I watched Jessica adjust Alex's pillows, playing the devoted wife while Ryan looked on admiringly. The perfect picture of family devotion, except I'd seen the autopsy reports of her previous husbands. All 3 had died from seemingly natural causes, their symptoms matching Alex's current condition perfectly. It means, I said, pulling my sons close, that we're going to save your uncle and your brother, whether they want to be saved or not. How? Tyler asked. I thought of the private investigator's file, of Jessica's pattern, of my son being drawn into her web. By destroying Jessica before she can destroy our family. The boys exchanged worried looks, but I was already planning my next move. Sometimes, to protect the ones you love, you have to embrace the darkness they're too naive to see. The toxicology report sat unopened on my laptop screen for 20 minutes before I found the courage to click. 3 previous husbands, 3 similar patterns of declining health. Trace amounts of thallium found during the final autopsy of husband number 2, dismissed as environmental exposure. My phone lit up with a text from Ryan. Meeting Jessica for lunch to discuss Uncle Alex's treatment options. Don't try to stop me. I closed the laptop and grabbed my keys, but Mark blocked the doorway. Before you go charging in there, we need to talk. She's poisoning my brother, Mark, and our son is walking right into her web. I know. He held up a manila envelope. The private investigator found something else, about Ryan. Inside were photos. Ryan and Jessica at various restaurants, coffee shops, his hand on her arm, her fingers brushing his shoulder. The timestamps went back months, long before Alex's diagnosis. It gets worse, Mark said quietly. Check the bank statements. $10,000 transferred from Jessica's personal account to a new account in Ryan's name. The date matched Alex's first hospital admission. My hands shook as I dialed Ryan's number. Straight to voicemail. He's not at lunch with Jessica, Tyler said from the stairs, making me jump. He's at the hospital with Uncle Alex. I just got off the phone with Lucas. He's there too. Why didn't they tell me? Tyler's face darkened. Because Jessica convinced them you're trying to sabotage Uncle Alex's recovery. She showed them emails supposedly from you to his board of directors, trying to have him declared mentally unfit. Those are fake. I know, Mom. That's why I hacked her laptop. Mark and I stared at our middle son, who shrugged. What? Someone had to do something while you were playing detective. He pulled out his phone, showing us screenshots. She's been planning this for over a year. The adoption idea? That was Ryan's suggestion, not Uncle Alex's. He and Jessica, they've been having an affair, I finished, the words tasting like ash. Not exactly. Tyler scrolled through more messages. She promised to make him CEO after Uncle Alex dies. Said she could convince the board if Ryan played along with her plan. Mark cursed under his breath. She's manipulating both brothers. 3, Tyler corrected. Lucas is involved too. She's been helping him apply to private schools behind your back, promising to pay his tuition if he supports her story about your mental state. The room spun slightly. I gripped the counter, trying to process the layers of betrayal. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Your brother's condition is deteriorating. Shame about the mix-up with his medication. But then, accidents happen when family members interfere with treatment plans. Mom, Tyler's voice seemed far away. What are we going to do? I looked at the photos again. My eldest son, my dying brother, my youngest being pulled into Jessica's elaborate scheme, each of them thinking they were getting what they wanted, none seeing the poison she was feeding them all. We're going to give her exactly what she wants, I said finally. Mark's eyebrows shot up. You can't be serious. Tyler, can you get into her banking records? He nodded slowly. Already have. She's got offshore accounts under her previous names. Good, because we're going to help her kill my brother. What? Both Mark and Tyler exclaimed. I picked up the toxicology report. She's careful, patient. Each death looked natural because she took her time. But if Alex dies too quickly, with too much poison in his system, the police will investigate, Tyler finished, understanding dawning on his face. And when they do, they'll find the evidence of her previous murders, along with proof that she's been manipulating my children. I turned to Mark. Unless you have a better idea? He studied my face for a long moment. You're talking about letting your brother die to catch her. I'm talking about sacrificing one life to save 3. My voice cracked. Because if we don't stop her now, Ryan will spend years under her control. Lucas will be trapped in her web, and who knows how many other families she'll destroy. Tyler's phone chimed. Ryan's texting. Uncle Alex is asking for you, says it's urgent. I grabbed my keys again, this time with purpose. Time to give Jessica her final performance. You two know what to do. As I drove to the hospital, I tried not to think about how revenge had twisted me into someone who could plot her own brother's death. But sometimes, fighting monsters means becoming one yourself. The family dinner felt like sitting on a powder keg. Alex barely touched his food, while Jessica kept refilling his wine glass with practiced care. Ryan sat at her right hand, playing the devoted nephew, while Lucas sulked at the far end of the table. Only Tyler watched everything with the same calculating gaze I'd come to rely on. The doctors are very optimistic, Jessica announced, her hand resting possessively on Alex's shoulder. The new treatment protocol is showing promise. Which doctors? The words slipped out before I could stop them. The ones who prescribed the medication I found in your drawer? The crystal wine glass in Jessica's hand trembled slightly. I don't know what you're implying. Mom, Ryan warned, but I was done playing nice. 3 previous husbands, Jessica, all dead within 2 years of marriage, all with similar symptoms to Alex's current condition. The silence that followed was deafening. Alex's fork clattered against his plate. That's ridiculous, Jessica laughed, but her eyes were sharp as razors. Ryan, tell your mother she's being paranoid. Ryan cleared his throat. Mom's been under a lot of stress lately. Maybe we should show them the transfer records. I cut in. The ones proving she's been paying you to support her story. The color drained from Ryan's face. Lucas sat up straighter, suddenly interested. What transfer records? Alex's voice was barely a whisper. Jessica stood abruptly, wine sloshing over the rim of her glass. I won't sit here and listen to these accusations. Alex needs rest, not this toxic environment. Sit down. Tyler's command surprised everyone. He pulled out his phone, sliding it across the table to Alex. Everything's there. The offshore accounts, the previous marriages, the suspicious deaths, and the messages between Ryan and Jessica planning how to manipulate you. Ryan lunged for the phone, but Mark caught his arm. "Don't," my husband said quietly. "It's time for truth." Alex scrolled through the evidence, his hands shaking. "Ryan, is this true?" "Uncle Alex, I can explain. He was trying to protect your legacy," Jessica interrupted smoothly. "Unlike some people who only want to tear this family apart. By sleeping with my nephew?" The words hung in the air like poison. Jessica's mask cracked. We never... "The hotel receipts suggest otherwise," Tyler said, his voice cold. Lucas stood up so suddenly his chair toppled backward. "You promised me a future. You said if I helped you, you'd make sure I got into Westbrook Academy." "Lucas, quiet," Ryan snapped, but the damage was done. "All this time," Alex whispered, "while I was planning our future, planning to give you everything, I did it for us." Jessica reached for him, but he recoiled. "Everything I did was to secure our position, our legacy. By poisoning me, like the others?" She froze. "What others?" "The toxicology reports," I said quietly. "From husband number 2. Thallium poisoning is pretty distinctive." Jessica's composure shattered. She grabbed her wine glass and hurled it at me, but Tyler was faster, pulling me aside. The glass shattered against the wall, leaving a blood-red stain. "You've ruined everything," she screamed, advancing toward me. "I had it all planned perfectly." "Mom, stop her," Lucas yelled, but Ryan was already moving, putting himself between Jessica and me. "Don't," he said, his voice breaking. "It's over." The look she gave him could have frozen hell. "You ungrateful little..." Alex's coughing fit interrupted her tirade. He doubled over, gasping for breath, blood speckling his napkin. "Call an ambulance," Mark shouted, rushing to Alex's side. Jessica used the chaos to bolt for the door, but I was ready. As she passed, I grabbed her arm, spinning her around. "You're not going anywhere." Her laugh was hollow. "You think you've won. Look at your family, Maya. Look what your precious truth has done. Ryan's future is ruined. Lucas's dreams are shattered. And Alex?" She glanced at my brother's convulsing form. "Well, the damage is already done. I made sure of that this morning." She twisted free and ran, leaving me torn between pursuing her and helping Alex. The sound of sirens grew closer as I watched my family fracture before my eyes. Ryan knelt beside his uncle, tears streaming down his face. Lucas huddled in a corner while Tyler called the police. Mark caught my eye across the chaos, and I saw my own horror reflected there. We'd exposed the truth, but at what cost? And somewhere out there, Jessica was escaping with all our secrets, all our weaknesses, and nothing left to lose. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning. The hospital corridor stretched endlessly before me as I followed the trail of blood drops, tiny crimson breadcrumbs leading to my brother's room. Alex had collapsed again during his attempted escape, proving Jessica's morning dosage had been particularly lethal. "He's asking for you," the nurse said, but her expression suggested I shouldn't expect much time. Inside, machines beeped in irregular rhythm. Tyler sat in the corner, laptop open, frantically tracking Jessica's financial movements. Mark stood guard at the door while Ryan paced like a caged animal. "Where's Lucas?" I asked. "Gone," Ryan spat, following Jessica's breadcrumbs about some private school connection. "He won't answer his phone." Alex's hand trembled as he reached for me. "The safe," he whispered, "behind the Kandinsky in my study. Everything you need." His monitors screamed. Medical staff flooded the room, pushing us out. Through the chaos, I caught Ryan slipping something into his pocket, a piece of paper from Alex's bedside table. "What did you take?" He met my gaze with Jessica's same cold calculation. "Insurance." "Against what?" "Against you destroying everything Uncle Alex built." He backed away. "You think you're protecting this family? You're tearing it apart." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. The text contained only an address and 4 words. "Lucas says hello, sister dear." Tyler looked up from his laptop. "Mom, Jessica just emptied all of Alex's accounts. Every penny gone." The doctor emerged, his face grave. "We've stabilized him, but the toxicology report shows massive organ failure. Whatever he was given..." We'll kill him, I finished. That's the point. My phone buzzed again. A photo this time. Lucas sitting in what looked like a private school office. Jessica's manicured hand visible on his shoulder. She's at Westbrook Academy, Tyler said, already pulling up the location. But Mom, there's something else. The school's financial director, he was married to Jessica's first victim. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. She's not running. This was her plan all along. Get Alex's money, take Lucas, destroy what's left of our family. Ryan. Mark's shout made us turn. Our eldest son was sprinting down the corridor, Alex's paper clutched in his hand. Let him go, I said, watching him disappear. He's made his choice. What now? Tyler asked. Now? I pulled out my car keys. Now we finish this. Mark, stay with Alex. Tyler, I need everything you can find on Westbrook Academy and Jessica's connection to it. And call the police. Tell them where to find her. Mom, Tyler's voice cracked slightly. What if we're too late? What if Lucas... Don't. The word came out sharper than intended. Your brother's not the only one she's trying to destroy. This is about legacy, about family. She's taken my brother, corrupted Ryan, and now she's using Lucas to complete her revenge. Revenge for what? For being the family she could never have. The realization hit me as I said it. Every husband, every manipulation, she's been trying to create the perfect family, then destroying it when it proves imperfect. My phone buzzed one final time. A video. Lucas staring into the camera, tears streaming down his face. Mom, I'm sorry. She says if you don't bring Alex's new will to Westbrook within the hour, she'll make sure Ryan takes the fall for everything. The affairs, the poison, all of it. She has proof. The screen went black. Tyler's fingers flew across his keyboard. Mom, the police are on their way, but they won't make it in time. I checked my watch. How long can you keep Alex stable? Mark's face darkened. You can't be serious. Jessica wants to destroy our family? Fine, let's give her what she wants. I pulled out my own copy of Alex's will, the one she didn't know about. But this time, we play by my rules. Maya. Mark grabbed my arm. This isn't about revenge anymore. This is about survival. No, I said, shaking him off. This is about justice. For Alex, for her other husbands, for our sons. I headed for the door. Sometimes the only way to protect your family is to be willing to lose them. Behind me, the monitors tracking Alex's heartbeat grew fainter, like a countdown to what was coming. I had less than an hour to save one son, stop another from destroying himself, and prevent a murderer from completing her masterpiece of destruction. And somewhere in the gathering darkness, Jessica waited, thinking she'd finally won. She had no idea what a mother protecting her children was capable of. It was time to show her. Westbrook Academy's empty hallways echoed with my footsteps as I approached the headmaster's office. Through the frosted glass, I could make out 3 silhouettes: Jessica, Lucas, and Ryan. Of course, Ryan would be here. He'd chosen his side. Right on time, Jessica called out as I entered. She sat behind the headmaster's desk like she belonged there, Lucas rigid beside her, Ryan leaning against the window with Alex's papers clutched in his hand. Where's the real headmaster? I asked, though I already knew. Indisposed. Food poisoning, such a shame. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. The will? I placed a manila envelope on the desk. First, let Lucas go. Mom, Lucas's voice cracked. I'm sorry, I thought... Quiet, Jessica snapped. Ryan, verify the documents. As Ryan reached for the envelope, I noticed something odd about his stance. The slight tremor in his hands, the way he wouldn't meet my eyes. He was scared. It's fake, he said after scanning the papers. This isn't Uncle Alex's signature. Jessica's facade cracked slightly. Where's the real will? With the police. Tyler's voice came from my phone in my pocket on speaker. Along with the evidence from your previous husband's deaths. They're on their way. You're bluffing. But Jessica's hand slipped into her desk drawer. The headmaster didn't have food poisoning, did he? I took a step forward. He recognized you from your first husband's case. That's why you needed him gone. Mom, Ryan warned, but I kept going. 3 husbands, 3 schools, 3 destroyed families. Always targeting men with sons, always playing the perfect stepmother, until they discovered the truth. Jessica pulled out a syringe, grabbing Lucas. Stay back. That's thallium in there, isn't it? Same thing you gave Alex this morning. Ryan's been helping you administer it for weeks, hasn't he? Lucas struggled, but Jessica held firm. Ryan moved toward them, his face unreadable. You don't understand. Jessica's voice shook. I gave them everything. Every husband, every family. I tried to be perfect, to create something lasting, but they always chose their blood relatives over me. Always. So you killed them? I set them free, and I gave their sons better opportunities, better futures. By manipulating them, by destroying their families, by saving them from mothers like you. She pressed the syringe against Lucas's neck. So protective, so righteous. But you're suffocating them. Ryan understands. Don't you, Ryan? But Ryan wasn't looking at Jessica anymore. He was looking at his phone, at the text I knew Tyler had just sent him. Proof that Jessica had already transferred Alex's money to an account in her name alone, leaving Ryan with nothing. You promised, he whispered. You said we'd build something together, that I'd inherit. Oh, grow up, Jessica spat. You were just like the others, so desperate for approval, so easy to mold. The syringe trembled against Lucas's skin. One push, and my youngest would suffer the same slow death as Alex. Mom, Lucas whimpered, and in that moment I saw my opening. Jessica, I said softly, there's something you should know about the will. She hesitated. What? Alex changed it last week, left everything to you, no conditions, it's in his safe at home. You're lying. Check your phone. Tyler just sent you the proof. As she reached for her phone with her free hand, Ryan moved. In one fluid motion, he grabbed the syringe and pulled Lucas away. Jessica lunged forward, but I was ready. The punch connected with her jaw, sending her sprawling across the desk. That's for my brother, I said as she struggled to rise. And this, I grabbed her hair, slamming her head against the wood, is for my sons. Sirens wailed in the distance. Ryan held Lucas as he sobbed, the syringe safely out of reach. Mom, Ryan's voice broke. I didn't know. I thought... I know. I kept Jessica pinned as footsteps thundered down the hallway. We'll talk about it later. As the police burst in, Jessica started laughing. You think this is over? Your precious family is already destroyed. Look at them. The trust broken, the bonds shattered. I've already won. I leaned close as they handcuffed her. No, Jessica. You just taught my sons what real family looks like. It's not perfect. It's not even always good. But we protect our own, even from themselves. The police led her away, her laughter echoing through the halls like a dying curse. My sons stood together, broken but alive, and I realized that sometimes victory looks a lot like survival. The key felt heavy in my hand as I unlocked Alex's front door. His house still smelled like him, coffee and expensive cologne, but the silence was deafening. The doctors had given him days, maybe hours. Jessica's final dose had done its work. Ryan stood in the doorway of the study, watching me gather Alex's papers. The police want my statement tomorrow. Tell them the truth. I pulled open the safe behind the Kandinsky. All of it. Even about helping her poison him? My hands stilled on the documents. Especially that. Lucas appeared in the doorway, his face tight. They found more victims. 7 husbands, not 3. Different names, different cities. 8, Tyler corrected, joining us with his laptop. Just found another one from 2015. She was getting better at hiding them. The safe's contents spread across Alex's desk like a roadmap of destruction. Bank statements, property deeds, and a letter addressed to me in my brother's shaking handwriting. I knew, I read aloud, about Jessica, about Ryan, about everything. But I thought I could protect them both. Forgive me, little sister. Some legacies aren't worth preserving. Ryan made a choked sound and left the room. Lucas followed, but Tyler lingered. The money's gone, he said quietly. She transferred everything before we caught her. Even with the evidence, it'll take years to recover. I closed the safe. We don't need it. But Uncle Alex wanted family. Real family. Not whatever twisted version Jessica sold him. The front door opened, and Mark's footsteps echoed through the house. Maya? The hospital called. I nodded, unable to speak. We all knew what that meant. There's something else, Mark continued. They found this in Jessica's cell. He held out a crumpled note. The handwriting was elegant, controlled. You think you've won, sister dear? Look closer at your precious family. Ryan wasn't the only one I taught my tricks to. Some poisons take years to surface. Some betrayals never heal. Sweet dreams. Lucas appeared behind me, reading over my shoulder. His face went pale. She's lying, he whispered. I wouldn't. But I saw the guilt in his eyes, remembered the strange illnesses that plagued his brothers over the past year. Small doses, experimental ones. Jessica's teaching methods were thorough. Mom? Tyler's voice cracked. I burned the note in Alex's fancy fireplace, watching Jessica's final attempt at destruction turn to ash. We start over, I said. All of us. No more secrets, no more poison, metaphorical or otherwise. How? Ryan had returned, hovering in the doorway like a ghost. After everything I did, we rebuild, one truth at a time. I turned to Lucas, starting with what Jessica taught you. He broke down then, confessing everything, the small doses, the experiments, the way she made it seem like a game. Tyler held his younger brother while he sobbed, his own tears falling silently. Mark touched my shoulder. Alex is asking for all of us. The drive to the hospital was silent. In the ICU, Alex barely had strength to smile, but his eyes were clear. Did you find it? He whispered. In the safe? I showed him Jessica's note. She tried one last time. Always had to have the last word. His laugh turned into a cough. Ryan? Our eldest son stepped forward, tears streaming. I'm sorry, Uncle Alex. You thought you could save everyone, just like your mother. Alex's hand found mine. The real legacy isn't in the safe. It's in them, even the broken parts. His monitors began to slow. Promise me, he managed. No more revenge, only healing. I looked at my sons, Ryan's guilt, Tyler's quiet strength, Lucas's desperate need for redemption. The poisons in our family ran deeper than Jessica's chemicals, but maybe that's what made us stronger. We knew our darkness, could face it together. I promise, I whispered, but Alex was already gone. Later, standing in his empty study, I found one last note in the safe, written years ago. Family is the hardest poison to swallow, and the only antidote that matters. I left it there, locked away with the rest of our secrets. Some legacies are meant to be buried, while others, the ones written in blood and tears and forgiveness, those are the ones worth preserving, even if they leave scars, especially if they leave scars.
The moment my mother's number flashed across my phone screen, I knew my carefully constructed world was about to crack. 20 years of silence, and she chooses to call on the day of the Industry Excellence Awards. Perfect timing, as always. I'm Sylvia, and I've spent the last 2 decades building something from nothing. My office, perched on the 32nd floor of downtown Manhattan, is a daily reminder of how far I've come from that terrified 18-year-old girl, pregnant with twins and abandoned by the one person who should have stood by her side. Ms. Lawson, your speech is ready for review, Claire said, poking her head through my office door. Her usual cheerful expression faltered when she saw my face. Everything okay? I declined the call and placed my phone face down. Just ghosts, Claire. Nothing I can't handle. The event starts in 3 hours. Jonathan's already there, supervising the setup. Claire hesitated. And your twins called. They're surprising you by coming to the ceremony. A smile broke through my tension. Ethan and Cora, my unexpected blessings, now freshmen in college. They weren't supposed to make it tonight. Some excuse about midterms. Those sneaky little... My phone buzzed again. Same number. Take it, Claire urged. I'll hold your calls for the next 15 minutes. After she left, I stared at the phone until it stopped buzzing. 3 missed calls. Then a text. We need to talk. I'm in the lobby. My hand started shaking. The lobby. She was here. I grabbed my blazer and headed for the elevator, my heels clicking against the marble floors with military precision. The security guard nodded as I passed, but I barely noticed. My mind was racing through the possibilities. Why now? What could she possibly want? The lobby was crowded with the usual afternoon rush, but I spotted her immediately. Roslyn, I refused to call her mom, looked exactly like I remembered, just with more expensive clothes and greyer hair. She was studying the building directory with that familiar, entitled expression. "What are you doing here?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. She turned, a practiced smile spreading across her face. "Sylvia, darling, look at you, so successful." She moved to embrace me, but I stepped back. 20 years, Roslyn. 20 years of nothing, and now you show up unannounced? Can't a mother be proud of her daughter? She glanced around the lobby. Perhaps we could discuss this somewhere more private. Your office, maybe. There's nothing to discuss. I have an important event tonight. Yes, the Industry Excellence Awards. I read about it. Her smile turned calculating. That's quite an achievement. Your company's grown impressively. A chill ran down my spine. She'd been keeping tabs on me. What do you want? Can't this wait until we're somewhere private? No. Say what you came to say. She sighed dramatically. Fine. I've had some financial setbacks recently, and I thought, given your success, you might want to help family. I actually laughed. Family? You lost the right to call yourself that when you walked out on your pregnant teenage daughter. I raised you for 18 years, she countered, her voice hardening. I think that earns me some consideration. Besides, I have documentation of my investments in your early years. It would be a shame if questions arose about the origins of your startup capital. My blood ran cold. She was threatening me. Today of all days. Security, I called out, maintaining eye contact with her. Please escort this woman out. You can't avoid this conversation forever, Sylvia, she said as two guards approached. I'm staying at the Marriott. You have until tomorrow to reconsider. I watched them lead her away. My perfectly planned day now in shambles. My phone buzzed, a text from Cora. Just landed, can't wait to surprise you tonight. The irony wasn't lost on me. One daughter eager to celebrate my success, while my own mother arrived to extort me for it. Back in my office, Claire was waiting with concern etched on her face. That bad? Worse, I replied, sinking into my chair. She wants money, and she's not above blackmail to get it. Should we call Jonathan, postpone the ceremony? I thought about my twins, flying in to surprise me. About the years I'd spent building this company, the sleepless nights, the sacrifices. About the little girl who once desperately wanted her mother's approval. No, I said, straightening my spine. She doesn't get to ruin this too. But Claire, first thing tomorrow, call our lawyers. If Roslyn wants a fight, she's going to learn exactly how strong her daughter has become. The Industry Excellence Award ceremony should have been my moment of triumph. Instead, I kept scanning the crowd, half expecting Roslyn to materialize and create a scene. The twins noticed my distraction immediately. Mom, you're doing that thing with your necklace again, Cora whispered, reaching over to still my fidgeting hands. We were seated at the main table, waiting for the keynote speaker to finish. Sorry, sweetie, just nervous about the speech. The lie felt bitter on my tongue. I'd promised myself never to lie to my children. Ethan leaned in from my other side. Bull, something's wrong. You've given dozens of speeches. His dark eyes, so like mine, narrowed. What aren't you telling us? Before I could respond, Jonathan appeared behind us. Sylvia, we need to deal with the situation in the lobby. My stomach dropped. She's here, isn't she? Who's here? Ethan demanded. Your grandmother, Jonathan replied, his usual diplomatic tone hardening. And she's making quite a scene. Cora grabbed my arm. Grandmother, as in... Stay here, I ordered, standing up. Both of you. Of course, they didn't listen. They never did when it really mattered. They followed me and Jonathan to the hotel lobby, where Roslyn was arguing with the event security. I have every right to see my daughter receive her award, she was saying, voice pitched to Carrie. Several guests were already watching the drama unfold. Mum, let us handle this, Cora whispered, but I shook my head. Roslyn, I called out, keeping my voice steady. This is inappropriate. She turned. that familiar manipulative smile spreading across her face. "Darling, I couldn't miss your big night." Her eyes landed on the twins. "And these must be my grandchildren. How grown up you both look." Ethan stepped forward, positioning himself slightly in front of me. "We're not your anything. You lost that right 20 years ago. Such hostility." Rosalind pressed a hand to her chest, playing to her growing audience. "I've made mistakes, yes, but I'm here to make amends, to be part of this family again." "Family?" Cora's laugh was cold. "You abandoned our mother when she was pregnant, with twins, at 18. There were circumstances you don't understand." "Oh, we understand perfectly," Ethan cut in. "Mum told us everything. How you kicked her out because her pregnancy would embarrass you in front of your new husband's fancy friends. How you changed your number, moved away, pretended she didn't exist." Rosalind's facade cracked slightly. "That's not entirely." "And now," Cora continued, "now that she's successful, you show up wanting what? Money, recognition, a relationship." "I raised her—" "No," I interrupted, finding my voice. "You didn't raise me. You controlled me, manipulated me, and when I needed you most, you abandoned me. The only thing you taught me was how not to be a mother." The lobby had gone silent. Rosalind glanced around, realizing her audience wasn't sympathetic. "I have rights," she hissed, dropping the act. "I invested in your future, paid for your education, until I got pregnant," I reminded her. "Then you wrote me off as a lost cause. Everything I've achieved, I did despite you, not because of you." "We'll see about that." She reached into her purse, pulling out an envelope. "I have proof of my financial contributions. Perhaps your investors would be interested." Ethan snatched the envelope from her hands. "You mean these?" He started tearing it into pieces. "Guess you'll need better leverage." "Security," Jonathan called out. "Please remove this woman. And this time, ensure she doesn't return." As the guards approached, Rosalind's mask completely slipped. "You ungrateful little bitch! You think you're better than me? I made you who you are." "No," Cora said firmly, taking my hand. "She made herself who she is. And she made us who we are. You're nothing to us." I watched as they escorted Rosalind out, her threats echoing through the lobby. The twins stayed close, their presence anchoring me. "Well," Jonathan said, breaking the tension, "I believe they're about to announce the Industry Excellence Award for Innovation in Technology. Shall we?" I looked at my children, my real family, and felt a surge of pride. "Actually, I need to rewrite my acceptance speech. I think I finally know exactly what I want to say." "About time," Ethan grinned, draping an arm over my shoulders. "Just please don't make us cry in public." "No promises," I replied, heading back to the ceremony with my head held high. Rosalind might have returned to haunt me, but she just reminded me of exactly how far I'd come and who had really been by my side along the way. The morning after the award ceremony, I found myself sorting through an old storage box I hadn't opened in years. The twins sat cross-legged on my office floor, examining faded photographs and documents. "Mum, is this you?" Cora held up a creased Polaroid of a teenage girl in an oversized sweater, trying to hide a small baby bump. 18 and terrified, I confirmed, taking the photo. That was taken the day before she kicked me out. Ethan picked up a wrinkled envelope. "What's this?" "Don't—" I started, but he'd already pulled out the contents, a handful of bounced checks and a handwritten note. "Don't contact me again. You made your choice." Ethan's voice shook with anger. "She wrote this to you when you were pregnant with us." A knock at the door saved me from answering. Claire entered, looking apologetic. "Sorry to interrupt, but Rosalind is in the building again. She somehow got past security using a visitor pass from another company." "Of course she did," I muttered. "Where is she now?" "Conference room B. Jonathan's stalling her." I stood up, straightening my blazer. "Kids, stay here." "Not happening," they said in unison. The walk to the conference room felt like marching into battle. Through the glass walls, I could see Rosalind sitting there, examining her manicure while Jonathan kept a careful distance. "I'll handle this," I said, pushing open the door. Rosalind's eyes flickered to the twins. Family meeting? How appropriate. What do you want? I remained standing, the twins flanking me. To remind you of something you seem to have forgotten. She pulled out her phone, tapped a few times, and slid it across the table. Remember this place? The photo showed a small medical clinic. My heart stopped. What about it? My voice sounded distant. That's where I took you for your first prenatal appointment. Where I paid the deposit for your medical care. Her smile turned predatory. Before you decided to ruin everything by keeping them. You wanted me to... I couldn't finish the sentence. I gave you options, Rosalind said. Very expensive options. Options that would have preserved your future. Instead, you chose... this. She gestured vaguely at the twins. Ethan stepped forward, but Cora grabbed his arm. Let her finish digging her grave, she whispered. I have receipts, Rosalind continued. Proof of every penny I invested in you. By my calculations, with interest, you owe me close to $500,000. I started laughing. I couldn't help it. That's what this is about, money. It's about what's fair. I sacrificed everything for you. No, I cut her off. You sacrificed me for everything else. Your reputation, your new marriage, your social standing. I pulled out my phone, and while we're discussing receipts, I played the recording from last night's confrontation in the hotel lobby. Her threats, her admission of attempted blackmail. Extortion is still illegal, last time I checked, Jonathan added mildly. Rosalind's face paled. You recorded me. I record all potential security threats to my company, I replied. Standard procedure. You wouldn't dare use that against your own mother. Watch me, I leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave. You're going to stay gone. If you ever try to contact me or my children again, this recording goes to every media outlet in the city. You can't. I can. I will. And just so we're clear, I pulled out my checkbook, wrote quickly, and tossed it at her. Here's $500,000. Consider every imagined debt paid. We're done. She stared at the check, then at me. This doesn't change anything. I'm still your mother. No, Cora said quietly. You're just the woman who gave birth to her. There's a difference. Security's waiting outside, Jonathan added, opening the door. Rosalind stood, clutching the check. You'll regret this, Sylvia. The truth about your success, about where you really came from, is right here, I interrupted, putting my arms around my twins. Everything I am, everything I've built, came from choosing them, from proving you wrong. So thank you, Rosalind. Thank you for showing me exactly the kind of mother I never wanted to be. After she was gone, Ethan turned to me. Did you really just give her $500,000? I smiled. Look at the check. Cora ran to the door and came back with the discarded check. She read it and burst out laughing. What? Ethan grabbed it. Pay to the order of, your conscience, amount, 0 tour and euros. Mom, you're savage. I learned from the best, I said, hugging them both. Now, who's hungry? I think we all deserve some comfort food after that performance. Pizza? They asked hopefully. Pizza, I agreed, feeling lighter than I had in years. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about money or power. Sometimes, it's simply about showing them exactly what they threw away. We have a problem, Jonathan announced, bursting into my office 3 days later. He dropped a stack of papers on my desk. Your mother's been busy. I flipped through the documents, my stomach tightening. She's meeting with Marcus Reynolds, our biggest competitor. Not just meeting. Look at the last page. The final document showed a series of email exchanges. My hand started shaking as I read them. She's claiming she provided the initial seed money for my company. I stood up so quickly my chair rolled into the wall. That's impossible. I have every bank record, every transaction. She's fabricated quite a convincing paper trail, Jonathan said grimly. Reynolds is considering using this information for a hostile takeover attempt. Claire appeared in the doorway. Sylvia, the twins are here, and you need to see this. Ethan and Cora rushed in, Ethan clutching his laptop. Mum, she's gone public. He turned the screen toward me, showing a business news website. The headline made my blood boil. Tech CEO's success story questions. Mother claims rights to company ownership. That's not even the worst part, Cora added, scrolling down. She's giving interviews about how she sacrificed everything to support your early career. She's trying to force my hand, I said, pacing. Make me pay her off to keep quiet. Actually, came a familiar voice from the door, I'm trying to take back what's mine. Rosalind stood there, looking perfectly polished in an expensive suit. Behind her, Marcus Reynolds smiled like a shark that had just spotted blood in the water. This is private property, Jonathan stepped forward. You're trespassing. Not for long, Reynolds replied smoothly. Once these ownership documents are verified. They're forgeries, I snapped. Are they? Rosalind pulled out a yellowed envelope. Remember this, darling. The college fund I set up for you. The one you emptied to start your precious company. My heart stopped. The college fund. The one thing I'd tried to forget. That money was mine, I said carefully. You signed it over to me on my 18th birthday. Under duress, she countered, when you threatened to expose certain family secrets to your stepfather. The twins looked at me questioningly. I'd never told them this part of the story. You want to talk about secrets, Roslyn? I moved closer. Like why you really set up that fund, where that money really came from. Her smile faltered slightly. Mom? Cora touched my arm. What's going on? Your grandmother didn't set up that college fund out of maternal love, I said, never breaking eye contact with Roslyn. She set it up to hide money from her first divorce, money she embezzled from her ex-husband's company. Reynolds' shark smile disappeared. Is this true? Of course not, Roslyn laughed, but it sounded hollow. She's desperate. I have proof, I cut in. Every transaction, every transfer. I found the papers when I was cleaning out her house after she kicked me out. That's why she signed the money over to me so easily, because she knew I could prove where it came from. You're bluffing, she whispered. I walked to my desk, pulled out a thick file from the bottom drawer. I kept everything. Been waiting 20 years for you to try something like this. Reynolds backed away from Roslyn. I think we're done here. Marcus, wait. She reached for him, but he was already heading for the door. You didn't think I'd be prepared? I asked quietly. You taught me well, remember? Always keep leverage. Always have a backup plan. This isn't over, she hissed. Actually, Jonathan interjected, it is. Our lawyers are filing a defamation suit as we speak. Those false claims you made to the press, they're going to cost you. You can't prove they're false. Yes, we can, Ethan spoke up. We found your old accountant. He's very chatty these days, especially since his retirement. Rosalind's composed facade cracked completely. You ungrateful little... Security's on their way up, Claire announced from the door. Should I have them escort Mrs. Lawson out, or would she prefer to leave with her dignity intact? For a moment, Rosalind just stood there, looking older and smaller than I'd ever seen her. Then she straightened her spine, adjusted her designer bag, and turned to leave. You'll regret this, she said over her shoulder. No, I replied, I won't. But I think you might. After she left, the twins hugged me tight. That was badass, Mom, Cora whispered. Yeah, Ethan agreed. But why didn't you use this leverage before? I looked at the file in my hands, 20 years of insurance against this exact moment. Because sometimes the best revenge is waiting for your enemy to destroy themselves. Jonathan cleared his throat. Speaking of destruction, shall we discuss our counterattack? I smiled, feeling more energized than I had in days. Oh yes, let's show her exactly what happens when you try to take on this family. Got it! Cora burst into my home office, laptop in hand, Ethan right behind her. You won't believe what we found. I looked up from the legal documents I'd been reviewing. It was Saturday morning, but we'd all been working around the clock since Rosalind's latest attack. Remember how you said Rosalind remarried right after kicking you out? Ethan pulled up a chair. Well, we did some digging into her new family. And? I set aside the papers, intrigued by their excitement. She's done this before. Cora turned her laptop toward me. 3 times. The screen showed a series of news articles spanning the last 20 years. Each one featured Roslyn, under slightly different names, involved in various financial disputes. Look at the pattern, Ethan pointed. She marries wealthy men, usually with grown children. Then she somehow gains control of family assets, and suddenly, there's a massive family fallout. Her current husband, Cora added, is Richard Sterling. My eyes widened. The real estate developer? The very one, Ethan grinned, and guess who's been quietly selling off his assets without his knowledge? A knock at the door interrupted us. Jonathan entered, looking unusually animated. You need to see this, he said, turning on the TV in my office. The news channel showed Richard Sterling himself, standing outside his office building, surrounded by reporters. Allegations of unauthorized property sales and misappropriated funds, he was saying. I've filed for divorce and am cooperating fully with the investigation. Holy shit, I whispered. That's not all, Jonathan said. Richard's children reached out to our lawyers. They want to talk. Within hours, my living room had turned into an impromptu war room. Richard's 3 adult children sat across from us, sharing stories that felt eerily familiar. She isolated our father, Sarah the oldest explained, convinced him we were after his money. Sound familiar? Then she started managing his finances, Michael, the middle child, added. Said she was protecting the family legacy. But you caught her, I said. Thanks to you, Lisa, the youngest, smiled. When we saw the news about her claims against your company, we started investigating, found the pattern you exposed. We're building a class action lawsuit, Sarah said. Other families have come forward. Would you be willing to testify? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Roslyn. We need to talk. One last chance to make this right. She's desperate, Ethan observed, reading over my shoulder. Good, Cora said firmly. Let's finish this. I typed back, Marriott, 1 hour, come alone. The hotel lobby was quiet when I arrived. I'd insisted on going alone, though I knew Jonathan had people watching the building. Roslyn sat in a corner, looking less polished than usual. I assume you've seen the news, I said, sitting across from her. You turned Richard against me. Her voice was bitter, ruined everything I built. Like you tried to ruin me. I leaned forward. I have to know, was any of it ever real? Did you ever actually care about anyone besides yourself? Of course I cared, she snapped. I gave you everything. You gave me nothing but lessons in manipulation, I cut her off. And now those lessons are coming back to haunt you. What do you want? She asked tiredly. I want you to disappear, sign a confession admitting your claims about my company were false, return everything you stole from Richard, and never contact me or my children again. Or what? I pulled out my phone, showed her the evidence we'd gathered. Or I make sure every law enforcement agency in the country knows about your pattern of fraud. Every news outlet gets your story. Every family you've destroyed gets their justice. She stared at the phone, then at me. You really hate me that much? That's the thing, Roslyn. I don't hate you at all. I pity you. You could have had a real family, real relationships. Instead, you chose schemes and manipulation. And now you're alone. I can change, she whispered. No, I stood up. You can't. But you can face the consequences of your choices. The papers will be delivered tomorrow. Sign them or face the consequences. As I walked away, she called out, I did love you, you know, in my way. I turned back one last time. Your way wasn't love, Roslyn. It was control. And now you've lost both. Outside, the twins were waiting in the car, despite my instructions to stay home. Well? They asked in unison. Now we wait, I said, sliding into the back seat. But something tells me she'll sign. And then, Cora asked, I looked at my children, my real family, and smiled. Then we go back to living our best lives, because that's the greatest revenge of all. She's not going to sign, Claire announced, bursting into the conference room where we were reviewing quarterly reports. And it's worse than we thought. Jonathan pulled up a news website on the projector. My stomach dropped as I read the headline. Tech CEO's dark past, mother reveals family secrets. She's gone nuclear, Ethan said, reading over my shoulder. Look at these allegations. The article detailed supposed evidence of tax fraud, claiming I'd used illegal means to start my company. Worse, it included personal attacks about my pregnancy, suggesting I'd manipulated and blackmailed my way through those early years. She's trying to destroy everything, I whispered. Mom? Cora touched my arm. There's something else you should see. She pulled up a social media post. Roslyn had shared old photos of me as a teenager, including some from when I was pregnant. The caption read, "A mother's sacrifice, the truth about my daughter's rise to power." The comments were brutal. People were already calling for investigations into my company. Your stock is dropping, Jonathan said quietly. Investors are getting nervous. My phone rang. Richard Sterling's daughter, Sarah. I put it on speaker. Turn on channel 7, she said without preamble. Now. Claire grabbed the remote. There was Roslyn, sitting in a studio, tears streaming down her face. As a mother, I only wanted to protect her, she was saying, but the things she did, the way she manipulated people, I can't stay silent anymore. That manipulative bye, Ethan started, but I held up my hand. Wait, look behind her. In the background of the shot, barely visible, was Marcus Reynolds. He was watching the interview with a satisfied smile. They're working together, Jonathan realized. Reynolds is backing her play. Of course, I said, everything clicking into place. He wants my company. She wants revenge. Perfect partnership. What do we do? Cora asked. I stood up, straightening my jacket. We fight back. Claire, call the station. Book me for tomorrow morning's show. Jonathan, get me everything you can on Reynolds' recent business dealings. Kids, I need you to... Already on it, Ethan interrupted, typing furiously on his laptop. Found something interesting about Reynolds' recent acquisitions. They all follow a pattern similar to Roslyn's schemes. And look at this, Cora added, pulling up another document. The timing of their meetings coincides with several suspicious property transfers. My phone buzzed again, a text from Roslyn. Ready to negotiate yet? Mom? Cora looked worried. What's our play here? I smiled, feeling strangely calm. We give them exactly what they want, a public showdown. The next morning, I walked into the same studio where Roslyn had given her tearful performance. She was already there, along with Reynolds, both looking smugly confident. Darling, Roslyn said sweetly as the makeup artist prepared us for air. Last chance to make this right. Funny, I replied. I was about to say the same thing. The red light came on. The host introduced us, recapping the controversy. Roslyn launched into her well-rehearsed story about my supposed misdeeds. And what do you say to these allegations? The host asked me. I pulled out my phone. I say, let's listen to something interesting. I played an audio recording. Reynolds' voice. Once we take her company, you'll get your cut. Just stick to the story. Roslyn. What about the illegal property transfers? If those come out... Reynolds. They won't. Trust me. This plan is foolproof. The studio went silent. Reynolds' face turned purple. Roslyn's makeup couldn't hide her sudden pallor. That recording, the host stammered, is that real? As real as the documentation I've just sent to the SEC about Mr. Reynolds' recent business practices, I said calmly. And as real as the evidence of my mother's involvement in multiple fraud schemes across 3 states. You recorded us, Reynolds sputtered. No, I smiled. You recorded yourselves. My tech company specializes in cybersecurity, remember? Your phones have been compromising your conversations for weeks. Roslyn stood up, shaking. You can't... Security is waiting outside, I cut her off. Along with some very interested FBI agents. Would you prefer to walk out, or should they come in? The host was frantically signaling to the producer, but I wasn't finished. Oh, and Mom, those photos you posted? Thank you. They showed everyone exactly what I overcame to build my success. Every comment attacking me just proved how strong I had to be. As security led them away, the host turned to me. "Would you like to make a statement?" I looked directly into the camera. Success isn't about who gives you opportunities. It's about what you do with the challenges life throws at you. And family, real family stands by you. They don't try to tear you down for profit. The red light went off. Claire rushed in with updates about the stock price already rebounding. But all I could think about were my twins, watching from home, seeing their mother finally close this chapter of her life. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters when I arrived for the hearing. 3 weeks had passed since the TV studio showdown, and now it was time to face the music, all of us. "Ms. Lawson," they called out, "any comment on your mother's plea deal?" I kept walking, Jonathan and the twins flanking me. Inside, the courtroom was already packed. Richard Sterling and his children sat in the front row, nodding as we passed. Roslyn and Reynolds were already there, both looking considerably less polished in their prison jumpsuits. "All rise," the bailiff called out. The judge entered, and the proceedings began. I listened as the prosecutor laid out the charges: fraud, extortion, conspiracy, securities violations. The evidence we'd gathered had opened a Pandora's box of crimes spanning decades. "The defendants have agreed to plead guilty to all charges," the prosecutor announced, in exchange for their cooperation in ongoing investigations. Roslyn turned around, her eyes finding mine. For the first time, I saw something real in them: fear. "Before I accept these pleas," the judge said, "I understand the primary victim would like to make a statement." I stood, smoothing my skirt. Cora squeezed my hand as I walked to the podium. "Your Honor," I began, 20 years ago, I was 18 and pregnant with twins when my mother threw me out. She told me I was worthless, that I'd never amount to anything. Those words haunted me for years." Roslyn shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "But today, I'm not here to talk about the past. I'm here to talk about justice, not just for me, but for every family these defendants have torn apart with their schemes." I turned to face them directly. "Mr. Reynolds, you thought you could use my mother's bitterness to steal my company. Instead, you exposed your own criminal enterprise. And Mom, Roslyn, you thought you could destroy what I built, but you forgot something important." "And what's that?" Roslyn asked, her voice barely audible. "You taught me to keep receipts," I smiled. "Every manipulation, every scheme, I learned from watching you. The difference is, I used those lessons to protect myself and others, not to destroy them." The judge leaned forward. "What are you asking for in terms of sentencing?" "The maximum allowed," I said firmly. "Not for revenge, but for protection. These defendants have shown they won't stop unless forced to. They've hurt too many families, destroyed too many lives." Reynolds' attorney jumped up. "Your Honor, my client—" "Save it," the judge cut him off. "I've reviewed the evidence. The plea deals stand, with maximum sentences." He turned to Roslyn and Reynolds. "You'll both have plenty of time to reflect on your choices." As the bailiffs led them away, Roslyn called out, "Sylvia, please." "Goodbye, Mum," I said quietly. "I hope you find peace." Outside, the reporters were waiting again. This time, I stopped. "Ms. Lawson, how do you feel about the sentencing?" I felt Ethan and Cora step up beside me. "Today isn't about feelings," I replied. "It's about accountability, about showing that success built on destroying others will eventually crumble." "And what about your mother? Will you ever forgive her?" I paused, considering. Forgiveness isn't about excusing actions. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of anger. So yes, I forgive her. For my sake, not hers. "Mum," Cora whispered, "look." Richard Sterling and his children were approaching. Sarah stepped forward first. "Thank you," she said simply, "for helping us expose the truth." "We should be thanking you," I replied. "Your courage in coming forward made this possible." Richard cleared his throat. "We're organizing a support group for families affected by similar situations. Would you consider speaking at our first meeting? I looked at my twins, saw them nodding encouragingly. I'd be honored. Later that evening, we sat in my living room, surrounded by empty pizza boxes and case files we no longer needed. So, Jonathan said, raising his glass, what's next for the unstoppable Lawson family? Sleep, Ethan groaned, making us laugh. Actually, I said, pulling out my laptop, I've been thinking. We've learned a lot about how vulnerable families can be to manipulation and fraud. Maybe it's time to use that knowledge. What do you mean? Cora asked. I'm thinking of starting a foundation, something to help protect families, provide resources, legal support, turn all this pain into something positive. The Phoenix Foundation, Cora suggested, because you rose from the ashes of what she did to you. We rose, I corrected, hugging them both, and we're going to help others rise too. As my family discussed plans for the foundation, I realized something profound. Rosalind had tried to write my story as a tragedy. Instead, she'd helped create a legacy of strength, resilience, and hope. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting better. The Phoenix Foundation's inaugural event filled the hotel ballroom with survivors and their families. As I watched Sarah Sterling wrap up her powerful speech about recovering from familial fraud, my phone buzzed with a familiar prison number. I declined the call, just as I had every week since the sentencing. Still calling? Cora asked, adjusting the foundation's banner behind the podium. Every Wednesday at 6, I replied, like clockwork. Ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan announced from the stage, please welcome our founder, Sylvia. The applause felt different this time, not the polite corporate acknowledgement I was used to, but something warmer, more personal. These people understood my journey because they'd lived their own versions of it. When my mother first reappeared in my life, I began, I thought she came to destroy everything I'd built. Instead, she showed me exactly what needed to be built next. The audience leaned forward, many nodding in recognition. We all have stories of betrayal, of family members who chose greed over love. But those stories don't define us. What defines us is what we choose to do with our pain. A movement at the back of the room caught my eye. Richard Sterling had arrived with his youngest daughter, Lisa. They were supporting an elderly woman I recognized from the case files, another of Reynolds's victims. The Phoenix Foundation isn't just about preventing fraud, I continued. It's about redefining family. Sometimes family is who we choose, who stands by us when biological bonds fail. Ethan appeared at the side of the stage, giving me a thumbs up. He'd just finished setting up our new online support network, connecting survivors across the country. Today we're announcing our legal defense fund. No one should face these battles alone. No one should have to choose between justice and bankruptcy. The doors opened again. Marcus Reynolds' ex-wife entered with their children, all of them wearing Phoenix Foundation supporter pins. But most importantly, I said, my voice growing stronger, we're here to remind everyone that your worth isn't determined by those who failed you. It's determined by how you rise, how you rebuild, and how you help others do the same. After the speech, during the reception, Claire rushed over with her tablet. You need to see this. It was a news article. Rosalind Lawson attempts prison program reform, cites personal transformation. She's teaching other inmates about recognizing manipulation patterns, Claire explained. The prison psychologist says she's making real progress. Good for her, I said, meaning it, but that chapter of my life is closed. Mom, Cora called out. The Sterling siblings want to discuss expanding the foundation's reach. The next hour flew by in a whirlwind of conversations, plans, and connections. People shared their stories, their triumphs, their ongoing struggles. Each one reinforced why we'd created the foundation. As the event wound down, Jonathan joined me at a quiet corner table. Quite a turnout, he said, sliding me a coffee. But you haven't checked your phone in hours. I pulled it out, 7 missed calls from the prison. She's persistent, he observed. She always was. I stared at the notification. Maybe that's what made her so dangerous. And now, I deleted the notifications. Now she's just someone who taught me what not to be. Mom? The twins approached, followed by a group of young adults, all children of fraud victims. We want to start a youth outreach program, help kids spot the warning signs early. Looking at them, my children, who'd grown into such compassionate, strong individuals, I felt a surge of pride. You know what the best revenge is? I asked Jonathan. He gestured at the room full of healing families, at my twins leading their peer support initiative, at the wall displaying our foundation's mission statement, transform pain into power. I think you figured it out, he smiled. The last guests were leaving when Claire brought me one final message, a letter from the prison. Unlike the others, I opened this one. Sylvia, I watched your foundation announcement on TV. For the first time, I saw you, really saw you. Not as an extension of my ambitions or a target for my resentment, but as the remarkable woman you've become despite me, not because of me. I don't expect forgiveness, I don't deserve it, but I want you to know that you've succeeded in the one area I always failed. You've created something that helps people instead of hurting them. Don't respond. Don't visit. Just know that at least one good thing came from my failures. They helped you become everything I never could be. Ah. I folded the letter and slipped it into my purse. Then I joined my real family, my children, my friends, my foundation members, as they planned the next chapter of our shared story. Not a story of revenge or resentment, but one of resurrection, of rising from the ashes stronger, wiser, and ready to light the way for others. That's the thing about phoenixes, they don't just rise, they soar.
I stared at my reflection in the gallery window, watching my sister Vada bask in the spotlight yet again. She was radiant in her designer dress, champagne glass raised high, as our mother Regina fawned over her latest achievement, winning the local art fair's People's Choice Award, the same award I'd been too afraid to enter, knowing what would happen if I outshined the family's golden child. My name is Kendra, and I've spent 28 years being the shadow to my sister's son, the invisible daughter, the one whose art supplies mysteriously disappeared before competitions, whose canvases were accidentally ruined before exhibitions. You should come inside, Griffin said, appearing beside me with 2 coffee cups. He handed me one, steam rising between us in the chilly evening air. Show them what you can really do. I shook my head, taking a sip of the perfectly bitter liquid. You know how that would end, Griff. Remember my high school graduation? When your mom convinced everyone Vada had painted your portfolio pieces. He scoffed. How could I forget? That was the day I realized your family was toxic as hell. Inside the gallery, Regina's laugh carried through the glass, sharp and theatrical. She was touching the arm of Marshall, the gallery owner, no doubt spinning tales about Vada's natural talent and artistic vision. Sometimes I wonder if Dad knew this would happen when he left, I said, turning away from the window. If he saw what Mom was becoming and just couldn't handle it anymore. Have you tried reaching out to him? What's the point? He hasn't answered my calls in years. I pulled my sketchbook from my bag, flipping to my latest piece, a dark, twisted landscape of thorny vines and broken mirrors. Besides, I have my art. It's the only thing they can't take from me. Griffin leaned closer, studying the drawing. This is incredible, Ken. The emotion in it. People need to see this. Maybe someday, I mumbled, but we both knew I didn't believe it. A sharp tap on the window made us jump. Regina stood there, perfectly manicured nails against the glass, beckoning us inside. Her smile was warm, but her eyes were arctic. There you are, darling, she cooed as we entered. Vada was just about to demonstrate her technique for Marshall. Weren't you, sweetheart? Veda's smile flickered for a fraction of a second. Of course, Mother. Kendra, would you mind getting my supplies from the car? Actually, Griffin interrupted. Kendra was just showing me her new piece. Marshall, you should really take a look. Oh, honey, Regina cut in, patting my cheek condescendingly. This is Vada's moment. We wouldn't want to distract from that, would we? I felt the familiar burn of shame creeping up my neck. But before I could retreat, Marshall spoke up. "I'd love to see it," he said, genuine interest in his eyes. "Always room for new talent in this gallery." Regina's hand clamped down on my shoulder. "Perhaps another time. Kendra's still developing her style. Isn't that right, dear? She's not quite ready for public viewing." I watched Vada set up her easel, pulling out brushes I recognized as mine, the ones that had disappeared last month. She began to paint, and my stomach twisted as I recognized the technique I'd spent years perfecting. "Remarkable," Marshall murmured. "The brushwork is so unique. Where did you study?" "Oh, Vada's entirely self-taught," Regina gushed. "It just comes naturally to her." I felt Griffin's hand squeeze mine as I fought back tears, but something else was building beneath the hurt, a spark of anger, of defiance. "I need some air," I managed, pulling away from Regina's grip. Outside, I pulled out my phone and opened the local art competition website. The submission deadline was tonight at midnight. "Do it," Griffin said, reading over my shoulder. "Enter the piece we saw at your studio yesterday, the one with the broken mirrors." My finger hovered over the submit button. "Mom will be furious." "Good." Griffin's voice was steel. "Let her be." I pressed submit before I could change my mind. The confirmation email arrived instantly. "Thank you for your submission to the Spring Showcase competition." "What's the worst that could happen?" I asked, trying to sound braver than I felt. Griffin smiled. "You could win." Looking back through the gallery window, I watched Vada sign her name to a painting that mimicked my style perfectly. She caught my eye and winked, raising her champagne glass in a mock toast. Little did she know, everything was about to change. The invisible daughter was finally stepping into the light. 2 weeks later, I stood in front of my easel at Griffin's studio, trying to process the email I'd just received. My hands were shaking so badly, I nearly dropped my phone. "I won," I whispered. "Griffin, I actually won the Spring Showcase." He rushed over from his workspace, paint-stained hands grabbing the phone. "First place? Holy shit, Ken, this is huge. The prize includes a featured spot in next month's gallery walk." My voice cracked. "My work will be displayed at Marshall's gallery." Griffin pulled me into a tight hug, not caring that we were both covered in paint. "Finally, everyone's going to see what you can really do." My phone buzzed. A text from Vada. "Mom wants you at the house. Important family meeting." "That's suspicious timing," Griffin said, reading over my shoulder. "They couldn't possibly know already, right?" The results weren't public yet, but anxiety churned in my stomach as I gathered my things. "Want me to come with you?" I shook my head. "I need to handle this myself, but stay close to your phone." The drive to my mother's house felt like heading to an execution. Regina's Mercedes was in the driveway, along with Veda's Range Rover. I took a deep breath and went inside. They were waiting in the living room. Regina sat perfectly poised on her favorite armchair, while Vada lounged on the sofa, scrolling through her phone. "Darling, there you are," Regina said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "We have wonderful news." "Oh?" I remained standing, arms crossed. "Marshall called earlier," Vada announced, looking up from her phone. "He wants to represent me. Can you believe it?" Regina beamed. "He was so impressed with her work at the gallery, he's offering her a solo exhibition." "That's interesting timing," I said carefully, considering I just won the Spring Showcase. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Regina's smile froze. "What did you say, dear?" "I entered my work in the showcase," I repeated, louder this time. "And I won first place. They're featuring my pieces at Marshall's gallery next month." Vada sat up straight, exchanging a look with Regina. Our mother stood slowly, smoothing her designer skirt. "Sweetheart, we need to discuss something." Her voice was honey-sweet poison. "You see, Vada has already accepted Marshall's offer. The exhibition is scheduled for next month. So, the gallery's big enough for both of us." "Actually," Vada cut in, "I may have already shown him some of your pieces, as mine." The world tilted sideways. "You what?" It's for the best, darling, Regina said soothingly. Vada has the connections, the presence. She knows how to work the art world. Your pieces will reach a much wider audience through her. Those are my paintings, my voice rose. My technique, my vision, my work. Don't be selfish, Kendra, Regina snapped. This benefits everyone. The gallery exposure will help pay off my debts, and Vada's career will flourish. You can always make more paintings. I pulled out my phone, hands trembling. I'm calling Marshall right now. Regina moved faster than I'd ever seen her, snatching my phone. You will do no such thing. This family has a chance at something extraordinary. I won't let you ruin it with your petty jealousy. Petty jealousy, I laughed, the sound harsh and foreign. You're literally stealing my art. Nobody's stealing anything, Vada said, examining her manicure. We're just redistributing the credit. Besides, who would believe you? I've already built a reputation. You're nobody. I backed toward the door, bile rising in my throat. You're both insane. Sleep on it, darling, Regina called after me. You'll see we're right. Family comes first, always. I ran to my car, tears blurring my vision. As I pulled away, my phone buzzed with a text from Griffin. Everything okay? Before I could respond, another message came through. From Marshall's gallery, attached was a promotional poster for next month's exhibition, featuring one of my paintings. Above it, in elegant script, introducing rising star artist Vada Stevens. I pulled over, my hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. They thought I was nobody, that I would just roll over and let them take everything I'd worked for. I opened my phone and typed a quick message to Griffin. Meet me at your studio. I have an idea. They wanted to play games. Fine. But they'd forgotten one crucial thing. I had nothing left to lose. And someone with nothing to lose is the most dangerous player of all. We need to create a new artist, I announced, pacing Griffin's studio. Someone mysterious, someone compelling, someone who isn't me. Griffin looked up from his laptop. You mean a pseudonym? More than that, I grabbed a blank canvas, my hands itching to create. I need to build an entirely new artistic identity, something so different from my usual style that no one would connect it to me. While Vada parades around with your old work? Griffin frowned. That doesn't solve the theft problem, Ken. No, but it gives me time. I started sketching rapidly. Time to build evidence, to gather proof. And when the moment's right, a knock at the studio door made us both jump. Through the glass, I saw a familiar face I hadn't seen in years. Dad, I whispered. Griffin opened the door, and there stood Nathaniel, looking older but still wearing his characteristic leather jacket. Hello, Pequeña, he said softly, using his old nickname for me. Your mother called. My heart sank. Let me guess. She told you I'm being difficult about Vada's success. He stepped inside, examining the studio. Actually, she asked me to talk some sense into you about supporting the family. That's when I knew something was wrong. Regina never asks me for anything. They're stealing my work, I blurted out. Vada's claiming my paintings as hers, and Mom's helping her. Nathaniel's expression darkened. Show me. I pulled up the gallery's promotional poster on my phone. His hands clenched as he recognized my signature technique. I should have seen this coming, he muttered. Your mother's obsession with Vada's success. It was always going to lead somewhere ugly. Why did you leave? The question burst out before I could stop it. He sank onto a paint-splattered stool. Because I was a coward, I saw what Regina was doing to you both. Putting all that pressure on Vada, making you invisible. I couldn't fight her without making things worse, so I ran. He met my eyes. I'm sorry, Kendra. Well, you're here now, Griffin interjected. And we could use the help. I showed them my plan. Sketches for a new series. Completely different from my usual style. Dark, urban, with elements of street art and social commentary. The artist will be anonymous, I explained. We'll create buzz online, build a following. Meanwhile, I'll document everything Veda and Mom are doing with my original work. It could work, Nathaniel said slowly. But you'll need more than just social media chatter. You need someone with influence to notice. I might know someone, Griffin said, pulling out his phone. Remember Violet, the journalist who covered the gallery's opening last month? She's been trying to do a piece on the local art scene. Perfect, I said, already mixing paints. Can you set up a meeting? While Griffin made the call, I started on the first piece of my new collection. Angry strokes of red and black, geometric patterns breaking apart, a hidden message in the chaos. Violet can meet tomorrow, Griffin announced. But Ken, are you sure about this? Once you start, there's no going back. My phone buzzed with a text from Regina. Darling, be reasonable. Come to dinner tonight and we'll discuss your role in Veda's success. I'm sure, I said, adding a final slash of crimson to the canvas. They want to make me invisible. I'll become a ghost that haunts them. Nathaniel stepped closer to the painting. What will you call yourself? I studied my creation. Raw, rebellious, everything I'd been afraid to be. Phoenix, I decided, rising from the ashes of what they tried to destroy. Your mother won't give up easily, Nathaniel warned. She's got too much invested in Veda's image. Good thing I'm not giving up either. I started on a second canvas. They taught me well, you know. All those years of watching from the shadows, seeing how they manipulate people, I learned every trick. Griffin's phone chimed. Violet's in. Says she's been looking for a story with teeth. Oh, she'll get one, I promised, my brush moving with renewed purpose. But first, we need to give Phoenix a proper introduction to the art world. I worked through the night, creating pieces that screamed everything I'd been forced to whisper. Each canvas was a weapon, each color a statement of defiance. As dawn broke, Nathaniel brought coffee and watched me sign the final piece with my new symbol, a stylized phoenix rising from broken chains. Your mother always said you were too sensitive for the art world, he mused. I don't think she realized she was creating her own worst nightmare. I stepped back, surveying my night's work. No, she was right about one thing. Family does come first, and it's time they remember I'm part of this family too. The sun rose over my new collection, and with it, Phoenix prepared to take flight. So let me get this straight, Violet said, sipping her latte at the corner cafe. You want me to cover an anonymous artist's debut, while simultaneously investigating your sister's sudden rise in the art world? That's right. I slid a USB drive across the table. Everything you need is here. Photos of my original works, dated sketches, early exhibition entries, plus documentation of how they suddenly became Vada's pieces. Violet pocketed the drive, her journalist's instincts clearly piqued. And this mysterious new artist, Phoenix, that's also you? I can neither confirm nor deny that, I said, just as we'd rehearsed. But I can arrange for you to get an exclusive first look at Phoenix's work. Why me? Because you're known for exposing truth, not just writing fluff pieces about local artists. She leaned forward, eyes sharp. You know this could destroy your family's reputation. They destroyed themselves. I'm just turning on the lights. My phone buzzed. A text from Griffin. Marshall just announced Vada's exhibition date, 3 weeks from now. Perfect timing, Violet said, reading the message over my shoulder. Give me a week to build the Phoenix story online. Then we'll release the first piece about questioning the authenticity of your sister's work. As if summoned by our conversation, Vada's voice cut through the cafe. Kendra, what are you doing here? She stood by our table, designer sunglasses pushed up on her head, looking every bit the successful artist she pretended to be. Just having coffee, I said smoothly. Violet, you remember my sister? Of course, Violet's smile was professional. I was just telling Kendra how excited I am to cover your upcoming exhibition. Veda preened. Yes, it's quite an achievement, though some people, she glanced pointedly at me, seem to have trouble being supportive. Actually, Violet said, I'd love to do an in-depth piece on your artistic process, maybe watch you create something new? I bit back a smile as Vada's confidence flickered. Oh, I never work with observers. It disrupts my creative flow. Shame, Violet murmured. That would have made a fantastic article. Vada's phone chimed. That's Mother. We're meeting with Marshall to discuss the exhibition layout. She touched my shoulder with false sympathy. You should come by the gallery sometime, dear. See how real artists present their work. After she left, Violet whistled low. Okay, I'm convinced. Let's take them down. Back at Griffin's studio, Nathaniel was helping set up for Phoenix's first photo shoot. The pieces were arranged dramatically, spotlights creating sharp shadows that emphasized their urban edge. The photos go live tonight, Griffin said, adjusting his camera. Anonymous submissions to all the major art blogs. By morning, everyone will be asking who Phoenix is. Meanwhile, Nathaniel added, I've been doing some digging into your mother's finances. The gallery deal with Marshall. She needed it badly. She's underwater in debt. That explains the desperation, I said, touching up one of the paintings. She's not just stealing my work for Vada's ego. She needs the money. My phone lit up with a notification. Vada had posted photos from the gallery meeting. My stomach churned as I saw my paintings arranged on the walls, her name prominently displayed. Look at this, Griffin called from his laptop. First Phoenix photo just dropped on Art Forum. Comments are already rolling in. I leaned over his shoulder, reading, Who is this artist? Amazing technique. Finally, something fresh in the local scene. Phase 1 is working, Violet said from the doorway, making us jump. Sorry, door was open, but you need to see this. She handed me a printout, financial records showing large payments from Regina to Marshall's gallery. She's buying her way in, Nathaniel growled, using borrowed money to secure Veda's spot. This is better than we thought, Violet said. We're not just exposing art fraud, we're uncovering financial manipulation too. My phone buzzed again, a message from Marshall. Heard you've been asking questions about your sister's work. Let's meet, alone. He's nervous, Griffin observed. Good. What do you want to do? Nathaniel asked. I stared at the message, then at my Phoenix pieces surrounding us. Set up the meeting. But first, let's give the art world something to really talk about. Violet was already typing on her phone. I'll leak a rumor that Phoenix is planning something big. Something that will shake up the local art scene. They won't know what hit them, Griffin said, snapping another photo. I picked up a brush, adding final touches to my latest piece, a phoenix rising from a house of cards, each card bearing a familiar face. 3 weeks, I said. 3 weeks until Vada's exhibition. 3 weeks to become everything they never thought I could be. The studio lights caught the wet paint, making it gleam like fresh blood. Marshall's office felt colder than I remembered. He sat behind his desk, fingers steepled, studying me with an intensity that hadn't been there when I was just Kendra, the invisible sister. Your mother called, he said finally. She's concerned about your emotional state. Is that what we're calling it now? I pulled out my phone, bringing up photos of my original works. Let's talk about these pieces, Marshall. The ones Vada's claiming as hers. He shifted uncomfortably. Art ownership can be complicated. Really, because I have dated photographs of every piece's creation, videos of my process, early sketches. I leaned forward. How much is my mother paying you to look the other way? His face paled slightly. That's a serious accusation. So is fraud. Before he could respond, the door burst open. Regina swept in, Vada trailing behind her. Marshall, darling, I hope we're not interrupting. Regina's voice dripped honey, but her eyes were steel. Actually, I said, standing. We were just discussing the exhibition's authenticity. Don't be ridiculous, Vada snapped. Everyone knows they're my pieces. Do they? I pulled up the Art Forum website. Because people seem more interested in Phoenix these days. Have you seen their work, Marshall? Critics are calling it revolutionary. Marshall clicked through the photos on his computer. Yes, quite impressive. The technique is unique. Unlike some people's, I added pointedly. Regina's hand clamped down on my shoulder. Darling, you're embarrassing yourself. Why don't we discuss this at home? No thanks. I have a meeting with Violet Henderson. You know, the journalist? She's very interested in local art. and financial records. The color drained from Regina's face. What have you done? Nothing yet. But Phoenix's first public piece goes up tomorrow. Right across from your gallery, Marshall. Might want to check it out. I turned to leave, but Vada blocked my path. You can't prove anything. It's your word against ours. And who's going to believe the failed artist? We'll see. I smiled, remembering the surveillance cameras Griffin had installed in his studio months ago, catching every conversation, every confession. By the way, how's that creative flow coming along? Still can't work with observers. Outside, my phone exploded with notifications. Phoenix's latest piece had leaked online. A massive digital artwork showing a puppet master controlling marionettes made of dollar bills. Griffin called immediately. It's everywhere, Ken. Art blogs are going crazy, trying to figure out Phoenix's identity. And people are starting to ask questions about Vada's work too. Good. I started my car. How's the installation coming? Your dad's helping with the final touches. It'll be ready for tomorrow's reveal. I drove to the studio, where Nathaniel was putting the finishing touches on a massive canvas that would soon cover the wall opposite Marshall's gallery. Your mother called again, he said, not looking up from his work. She's offering to negotiate. Too late. I picked up a brush, adding details to the peripheral figures. Did you send Violet those bank statements? This morning, she's running them by her financial expert contact. My phone buzzed with a text from Violet. Story goes live tomorrow morning. Sure you want to do this? Another message popped up from Regina. Darling, please be reasonable. We can work something out. Family first, remember. I thought about all the times I'd been reasonable, all the times I'd stayed quiet, stepped aside, put family first. Where had it gotten me? They're scared, Nathaniel observed, watching me work. Regina's not used to losing control. She should be scared. I added the final touches to the mural. A series of masks, each cracking to reveal the truth beneath. Phoenix rises at dawn. Griffin burst in, laptop open. You need to see this. Vada just did a live interview about her creative process. She's completely tanking. We watched as Vada stumbled through basic questions about technique, materials, and inspiration. The comments were brutal. Something's off. Does she even paint? Compare this to Phoenix's work. Marshall's calling an emergency meeting, Griffin said, checking his phone. Apparently, some major collectors are having doubts about the exhibition. Nathaniel stepped back from the mural, admiring our work. Ready for tomorrow? I looked at the massive piece we'd created. A story told in paint and shadow. Truth breaking through lies. A phoenix rising from the ruins of false reputations. The walls prepped, Griffin confirmed. We install at 4 a.m., just before the morning rush. By the time the gallery opens, everyone will know. I finished. Not the whole truth, not yet, but enough to make them sweat. My phone lit up one last time. A message from Marshall. We should talk, privately. Name your price. I showed the message to Nathaniel and Griffin, watching their expressions harden. They still think this is about money, I said, turning back to our creation. They have no idea what's coming. The studio lights caught the phoenix's wings, making them gleam like justice about to break. Dawn broke over the city as we finished mounting the massive mural. Griffin's camera clicked continuously, documenting everything while Nathaniel kept watch. They're going to lose their minds, Griffin whispered, stepping back to take in the full effect. The piece dominated the wall opposite Marshall's gallery, a towering phoenix emerging from a pile of familiar paintings, each one clearly recognizable as my original work. Below, in stark lettering, Art Speaks Truth. By 7 a.m., a crowd had gathered. Phones were out, social media buzzing. I watched from across the street, wearing a hoodie and sunglasses, as Violet conducted impromptu interviews with onlookers. It's clearly a statement about authenticity in the art world, one critic was saying. Look at those paintings in the ashes. They're identical to the ones in tomorrow's exhibition. My phone vibrated, Regina calling for the 12th time. I declined it just as Marshall's Mercedes screeched to a halt in front of the gallery. "Get it down," he shouted at his employees. "Now." "I wouldn't do that," Violet called out, holding up her phone. "Live streaming to 50,000 followers. Sure you want to be seen censoring art?" Marshall froze, finally taking in the full impact of the mural. His eyes widened as he recognized the paintings depicted in it, the same ones hanging in his gallery under Veda's name. "Who did this?" he demanded. "Phoenix," several voices answered at once. "The timing's interesting," Violet said, loudly, still recording. "Right before your big exhibition featuring Vada's work that looks remarkably similar to these pieces." A sleek Range Rover pulled up. "Vada," she stumbled out, designer sunglasses not quite hiding her panic. "This is harassment," she shouted. "Those are my paintings. I created them." "Did you?" someone in the crowd called out. "Prove it. Show us your process." "I don't have to prove anything." "Actually," Violet stepped forward, "you might. My latest article just went live. Financial records showing suspicious payments from your mother to the gallery. Testimonies from art students who remember these exact pieces being created by someone else." Vada's phone started ringing. She answered it, turning away from the crowd. "Mother, you need to get down here now." Regina arrived 10 minutes later, looking less polished than I'd ever seen her. She pulled Marshall and Vada into a huddle, gesturing frantically. "Watch this," Griffin murmured, nodding toward the gallery entrance. Right on cue, an older man in an expensive suit approached the group. "The city's most respected art critic, right on schedule. Mr. Marshall," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I've been reviewing the exhibition pieces for tomorrow's opening. In light of these developments, I have some questions about provenance." Regina stepped forward, charm offensive ready. "Perhaps we could discuss this privately." "No," he cut her off. "I think transparency is crucial right now. Miss Vada, would you walk me through your creative process for the centerpiece, the one with the broken mirrors?" Vada's face went white. That is, my process is very personal. Because," he continued, pulling out his tablet, "I have here a video from 3 years ago showing that exact piece being created by someone else." The crowd pressed closer. Phones recorded everything. Violet's smile was predatory as she took notes. "This is ridiculous," Regina snapped. "We have contracts, agreements, obtained through fraudulent means," Violet interjected, "as detailed in my article, which, by the way, just hit 50,000 shares." I stepped forward, finally pulling off my hoodie and sunglasses. "Need help explaining my technique, Vada? Since they're my paintings after all." The silence was deafening. Regina's face contorted with rage and fear. Vada seemed to shrink, her carefully constructed facade crumbling. "Kendra," Marshall started, "let's discuss this privately." "No more private discussions," I said clearly. "No more backroom deals. No more stealing what isn't yours. You ungrateful little." Regina lunged forward, but Nathaniel stepped between us. "That's enough, Regina," he said quietly. "It's over." The art critic looked between us all, understanding dawning. "Well, this explains a lot. I believe I'll be rewriting my review of tomorrow's exhibition, assuming there still is one." Marshall's phone was buzzing constantly now. Collectors, presumably, demanding answers. "You've ruined everything," Vada whispered. "No," I corrected her, pointing to the phoenix rising above us. "I've just started creating something real." Violet's voice cut through the chaos. "Exclusive interview with the real artist behind the controversial Stevens exhibition, streaming live in 10 minutes. The crowd surged forward, cameras flashing, questions flying. Through it all, I kept my eyes on the phoenix, my truth, finally taking flight. Regina grabbed my arm as chaos erupted around us. "This isn't over," she hissed. I smiled, feeling truly visible for the first time in years. "You're right. Phoenix is just getting started." The gallery was packed for what should have been Vada's triumphant exhibition opening. Instead, the crowd buzzed with whispers and pointed fingers as my sister stood frozen before her, my paintings, mascara streaking down her face. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marshall announced, his voice shaking slightly. "In light of recent developments, tonight's exhibition will be postponed." "Why postpone?" I called out, stepping forward. "The artist is right here." Regina appeared beside me, gripping my arm. "Kendra, stop this madness right now. Or what, Mom? You'll make me invisible again." The art critic cleared his throat. "Perhaps Ms. Vada would like to demonstrate her technique. Show us how she created these remarkable pieces." Vada backed away from the easel that had been set up for her live demonstration. I'm not feeling well." "Then I will," I said, picking up a brush, "since I'm the one who actually painted everything here." The crowd gathered around as I began to work, my hands moving with practiced confidence. Every stroke was familiar, every technique my own. Within minutes, the emerging image matched the style of the surrounding paintings perfectly. "Fascinating," the critic murmured, recording everything on his tablet. "And those surveillance videos Ms. Henderson provided, showing you creating the original works, are fake," Regina interrupted, obviously doctored. "Kendra is just jealous of her sister's success. Success built on lies," Nathaniel said, stepping forward. "Show them the financial records, Regina. Show them how you bought this exhibition with borrowed money." Marshall cleared his throat nervously. "Perhaps we should clear the gallery." "No," I said firmly, still painting. "Let's have everything out in the open. Like how you knew these were my paintings all along, Marshall. How you helped them steal my work because Mom promised you a cut of the profits." The whispers grew louder. Phones recorded everything. Violet stood near the entrance, broadcasting live. "That's not," Veda's voice cracked. "Mother said it would be okay. She said you owed us." "Owed you?" I turned from the easel. "For what? Years of being pushed aside? Having my art supplies destroyed before competitions? Being told I wasn't good enough while you took credit for my work? I never meant—" Vada looked around desperately. "Mother, do something." But Regina was backing away, her carefully maintained facade crumbling as reporters pressed closer with questions about the financial records. "Is it true you're deeply in debt? Did you bribe the gallery? Were you aware of the art theft? This is all a misunderstanding." Regina tried, but her voice had lost its authority. "We're a family." "A family?" I laughed, the sound sharp and cold. "Families don't steal from each other. They don't destroy each other's dreams for profit." The art critic stepped forward again. "And Phoenix, the mysterious artist everyone's talking about?" I nodded to Griffin, who projected images onto the gallery wall. Photos of me creating the Phoenix pieces, documentation of every step. "Phoenix rose from the ashes of what they tried to destroy," I said, facing the cameras. "Every piece was a statement about truth, about authenticity, about fighting back against those who try to silence artists." "No," Regina whispered, watching her carefully constructed world collapse. "You can't." "Can't what? Succeed without your permission? Exist outside your control?" I turned to the crowd. "Every painting here has my signature hidden in it. UV light will reveal them, along with dates, timestamps, and coded messages I've included in each piece." Marshall slumped against the wall as collectors demanded refunds, his phone buzzing constantly. Vada had sunk into a chair, all pretense abandoned, as she sobbed quietly. "The Phoenix mural outside," the critic said thoughtfully. "It was a warning, wasn't it? And a declaration." "It was truth in art form," I replied, adding the final stroke to my demonstrations piece. A small phoenix rising in the corner, my real signature bold beneath it. Violet pushed forward with her camera. "And now that the truth is out, what's next for the real artist behind these works?" I looked at my family, Regina's desperate anger, Vada's broken facade, Nathaniel's quiet pride. Then at my supporters, Griffin recording everything, Violet broadcasting truth, the critic nodding approvingly at my technique. Now, I picked up a fresh canvas. Now I create under my own name. No more shadows, no more theft, No more lies. Security, Marshall called weakly. Clear the gallery. No need, I said, gathering my supplies. The exhibition can proceed as planned, but with one small change. I walked to each painting, pulling out a UV light. One by one, my hidden signatures glowed, undeniable proof of their origin. The crowd gasped and photographed each revelation. Everything stays, I announced, but with proper attribution. After all, isn't art about truth? Regina's last desperate cry was drowned out by applause as I signed my latest piece with flourish. Not as Phoenix, not as the invisible daughter, but as myself. Finally, undeniably visible, the morning sun streamed through Griffin's studio windows as I packed the last of my paintings. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since the exhibition. Galleries, collectors, journalists all wanting to talk about my work, both as myself and as Phoenix. Ready for this? Griffin asked, carefully wrapping my latest piece. Not really. I checked my phone. Another missed call from Regina. But I need to do it. The drive to my childhood home felt different now. The imposing facade no longer intimidated me. Nathaniel's truck was already parked outside. Inside, Regina sat at the dining room table, papers spread before her. Veda slumped in a corner chair, looking smaller without her designer clothes and carefully crafted confidence. You came, Regina said flatly. Your father insisted on this family meeting. We need to talk about consequences, Nathaniel said, his voice firm. Real ones. I set a folder on the table. 3 options. Read them. Regina's hand shook as she opened it. What is this? Option 1. You both publicly admit everything. The theft, the fraud, the manipulation. I'll decline to press charges, but you'll need to repay the collectors you deceived. Vada looked up, hope flickering. And the other options? Option 2. I let Violet publish everything she has. The financial records, the surveillance footage, the texts between you and Marshall planning the theft. You both face fraud charges. Regina's face hardened. You wouldn't dare. Option 3, I continued. I walk away. Cut all ties. But every piece of art I create will tell this story. Every exhibition will showcase how my own family tried to steal my voice. You're blackmailing us, Vada whispered. No, I'm giving you a chance to do the right thing. Finally, Nathaniel placed a hand on my shoulder. Listen to her, Regina. It's over. The question is how you want it to end. Regina stared at the papers, her carefully manicured nails tapping the table. The collectors are already demanding refunds. Marshall's reputation is ruined. What more do you want? The truth, I said simply. That's all I ever wanted. Vada stood suddenly. I'll do it. I'll confess. She turned to me, tears streaming. I was so scared of disappointing her, of not being perfect. It was easier to take your work than face my own failure. Vada, Regina snapped. Don't you dare. No, mother. Vada's voice strengthened. You pushed and pushed until we both became monsters. I won't do it anymore. My phone buzzed. Griffin. Reminding me about the meeting with the new gallery. A real opportunity, earned with my own talent. Choose quickly, I said, standing. The press conference is in an hour. Either you'll be there to tell the truth, or I will. Regina's facade finally cracked. Everything I did was for this family. No, Nathaniel cut in. Everything you did was for your image of what this family should be. You never saw who we really were. I walked to the door, pausing. You know what the worst part was? I would have helped you, supported you both, if you'd just asked. Family works both ways. Wait, Vada called. I'm coming to the press conference. Mother can do what she wants, but I'm done lying. Regina watched her golden child walk away, her empire of lies crumbling. Outside, Griffin waited with his camera. How'd it go? About as expected. I looked back at the house. They'll either show up or they won't. Either way, I'm done hiding. Vada emerged, followed surprisingly by Regina, her shoulders slumped in defeat. I suppose, Regina said quietly. I owe you both an apology. Many apologies. Save it for the press conference, I replied. Actions matter more than words now. At the gallery, Violet waited with her camera crew. The art critic stood nearby, examining my latest piece, a family portrait unlike any other, showing masks falling away to reveal true faces beneath. "Ready?" Griffin asked as we took our places. I looked at my fractured family, Vada's trembling courage, Regina's broken pride, Nathaniel's quiet strength, then at my chosen family, Griffin's unwavering support, Violet's dedication to truth, the critic's appreciation for authentic art. "Truth isn't always beautiful," I said to the assembled cameras, "but it's always art." The lights flashed as Regina stepped forward to speak. Vada beside her. I watched them confess, watched the truth finally set us all free. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from Marshall. "I'm sorry, you deserved better." I deleted it without responding. The past was painted over, and my canvas was finally gloriously blank. "Phoenix has landed," Griffin whispered, squeezing my hand. I smiled, feeling the weight of invisibility fall away completely. "No, Kendra is finally flying."
The cream-colored envelope felt like lead in my hands. Gold foil accents caught the morning light streaming through my apartment windows, mocking me with their cheerful sparkle. I didn't need to open it to know what was inside, the wedding invitation I'd been dreading for months. My name is Monica, and my brother was about to marry my best friend. Or rather, my former best friend. "You've been staring at that thing for 10 minutes, Sullivan said from my kitchen counter, where he was nursing his second cup of coffee. "Want me to open it for you?" I shook my head, finally sliding my finger under the flap. The invitation was exactly as pretentious as I'd expected. Thick cardstock, elaborate calligraphy, and a photo of the happy couple gazing lovingly into each other's eyes. "Well," Sullivan prompted, "you are cordially invited to celebrate the union of Riker and Jolie," I read aloud, my voice flat. "God, I think I'm going to be sick." "You don't have to go," Sullivan said, but we both knew that wasn't true. I dropped onto my couch, letting the invitation fall to the floor. If I don't show up, they win. They get to paint me as the bitter, jealous sister who couldn't handle their perfect love story. I made air quotes with my fingers, feeling childish but too angry to care. My phone buzzed. Speaking of the devil, it was my mother. "Did you get it?" she asked, not bothering with hello. "Isn't it beautiful? Jolie picked out the design herself." "Of course she did," I muttered. "Yes, Mom, I got it." "Now, honey, I know this is complicated, but your brother is happy. Can't you just be happy for him?" I closed my eyes, counting to 10. "Mom, Jolie was my best friend since middle school. She spent every Christmas with us for a decade. And suddenly, 6 months ago, they announced they're dating. Don't you think that's weird?" "Sometimes love just happens that way," she said, her voice syrupy sweet. "Oh, did you see the note about the family meeting tomorrow night? Your father insists everyone attend. It's about the estate planning." My stomach dropped. "Estate planning? Why now?" "Well, with Riker getting married, your father wants to make sure everything's properly arranged. You'll be there, right?" I caught Sullivan's eye across the room. He'd heard enough of my conversations with my mother to know that tone, the one that said this wasn't really a request. "I'll be there," I said, hanging up before she could say more. Sullivan crossed the room and picked up the invitation, studying it. "You think this is about the inheritance? When isn't it?" I grabbed my laptop, pulling up my bank account. The numbers hadn't changed. My teaching salary wasn't going to magically transform into the kind of money Riker and Jolie were after. My grandmother's estate is worth millions, and now suddenly my golden boy brother is marrying my best friend, right when Dad's talking about estate planning. That's not a coincidence. My phone buzzed again, a text from my grandmother, Rosalind. "Come see me before the family meeting tomorrow. Bring coffee, the good kind." I showed Sullivan the message. He raised an eyebrow. "Your grandmother's the sharp one, right? The one who never bought into Riker's act?" "That's her." I felt a small spark of hope for the first time since the invitation arrived. She sees right through him, always has. Then maybe she knows something about what they're planning. I stood up, gathering my keys and bag. Only one way to find out. Want to grab dinner later? I have a feeling I'm going to need a drink after tomorrow's meeting. Count me in, Sullivan said, heading for the door. At the threshold, he paused. Hey, Monica, whatever they're planning, you're stronger than they think. Don't forget that. After he left, I picked up the invitation again, running my finger over the embossed names. Riker and Jolie, my brother and my best friend, who'd spent years listening to my secrets, my hopes, my fears, probably laughing about them the whole time. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from Jolie. Hope you got the invitation. Can't wait to officially be sisters. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my safe and pulled out the last birthday card Jolie had given me, just 6 months before she and Riker announced their relationship. Best friends forever, she'd written. No secrets between us. I placed the wedding invitation next to the birthday card, a physical reminder of their betrayal. Tomorrow I'd see my grandmother and find out what she knew. But tonight, I had research to do. If they thought I was going to sit quietly while they manipulated my family and tried to cut me out of my inheritance, they were about to learn how wrong they were. The church bells chimed as I slipped into the back pew, 30 minutes early for the ceremony. My grandmother's words from our morning coffee meeting still echoed in my mind. Watch everything, dear, especially what they think no one's seeing. I smoothed my navy blue dress, definitely not the pale pink bridesmaid gown Jolie had forgotten to ask me to wear, and observed the pre-wedding chaos. Monica, my mother's voice cut through the murmur of arriving guests. Why aren't you helping Jolie get ready? All her bridesmaids are upstairs. Funny, I must have missed that invitation too, I said, keeping my voice light. Besides, I thought the bride preferred to keep some distance between us these days. Mom's face tightened. Don't start. Not today. Everything okay here? Riker appeared beside us, looking perfect in his tuxedo, always the concerned brother in public. Just fine, I said, meeting his eyes, congratulating my dear brother on his unexpected romance. Riker's smile didn't waver, but his eyes hardened. Life's full of surprises, sis. Speaking of which, Dad wants to talk to you after the reception about yesterday's meeting. The meeting you and Jolie conveniently scheduled during my teaching hours? I raised an eyebrow. How did that go? Wonderfully, he said, his voice dripping with fake warmth. We made some important decisions about the family trust. Dad's really thinking about the future. Before I could respond, the wedding coordinator hustled everyone to their places. I watched from my seat as Riker took his position at the altar, the perfect picture of a loving groom. The bridal march began, and Jolie appeared in a dress that probably cost more than my yearly salary. As she passed my pew, our eyes met briefly. Something flickered across her face. Guilt, fear, before she quickly looked away. During the ceremony, I noticed Jolie's hand trembling as she recited her vows. Interesting. The confident Jolie I knew never showed nervousness. I pulled out my phone and typed a quick note. Bride nervous. Why? The reception was held in the grand ballroom of the Harvey Hotel, my family's flagship property. I found a quiet corner to observe the festivities, noting how Jolie worked the room, charming every wealthy guest in attendance. Quite the performance, isn't it? I turned to find Sullivan beside me, offering a glass of champagne. You made it, I said, grateful for his steady presence. Couldn't let you face the lions alone. He nodded toward where Jolie was laughing with my father. Notice how she keeps touching her neck. Classic tell when she's lying. You picked up on that too? I took a sip of champagne. She used to do that during our college presentations. Monica. Jolie's voice made me freeze. She stood behind us, her wedding dress rustling. Can we talk? Privately. Sullivan squeezed my arm before walking away. I followed Jolie to a quiet hallway, away from the reception's noise. You look beautiful, she said, fidgeting with her necklace again. I really did mean to ask you to be a bridesmaid. Save it, I cut her off. What do you want? She glanced around nervously. I need you to know this isn't what you think. Oh, so you didn't secretly date my brother while being my best friend? You didn't help him convince Dad to restructure the trust in your favor yesterday. Her face paled. How did you know about the meeting? Grandmother told me everything this morning, including how you suggested removing my voting rights from the family business. Riker said it was for the best, she whispered. The company needs strong leadership, and you've never shown interest, because Riker blocked every attempt I made to get involved. I stepped closer. Tell me something, Jolie. Was any of it real, our friendship, or was I just your ticket into the Harvey fortune all along? Tears welled in her eyes. It's not that simple. There are things you don't know. There you are, Riker's voice boomed down the hallway. Everyone's waiting for the first dance. As he led Jolie away, she looked back at me, her expression desperate. Monica, please, be careful. Come on, honey, Riker said firmly, cutting her off. I watched them return to the reception, my mind racing. Jolie was scared, not of me, but of something else. Or someone else. My phone buzzed with a text from my grandmother. Meet me in my office. Now, bring that sharp friend of yours. I found Sullivan and showed him the message. He grinned. Ready to crash this party? More than ready, I said, heading for the elevator. I think Grandma's about to show us her cards. Grandmother's office on the top floor of the Harvey Hotel was a time capsule of old money and power. Dark wood paneling, leather-bound books, and a massive desk that had witnessed decades of family decisions. She sat behind it now, looking more alert than I'd seen her in years. Lock the door, she instructed as Sullivan and I entered. What I'm about to show you can't leave this room. I turned the lock while Sullivan took a seat. Grandmother pulled out a thick manila envelope from her desk drawer. Your brother made a mistake, she said, her voice sharp. He thought I was sleeping during yesterday's meeting. I wasn't. She spread several documents across the desk. Look here. These are the original trust documents, drawn up by your grandfather 30 years ago. And these, she pulled out another set of papers, are the changes Riker and your father tried to push through yesterday. Sullivan leaned forward, scanning the papers. They're trying to consolidate voting power. Worse, I said, pointing to a highlighted section. They're trying to make it so only married family members can hold controlling shares. That's why the wedding was rushed. Grandmother nodded. Precisely. But your brother got sloppy. Notice anything about these signatures? I examined the papers closely, then gasped. These are dated 3 months ago, but Dad's signature looks different from his current one. Because your father broke his writing hand 2 months ago, Grandmother said, smiling grimly. He couldn't have signed these then. They forged his signature. Sullivan whistled low. That's not just unethical, that's illegal. Indeed. Grandmother pulled out one final document, which is why I had my lawyers draw this up last week. It's an amendment to the trust that supersedes anything your brother tried to do. It guarantees equal shares to both my grandchildren, regardless of marital status. Does Dad know about this? I asked. Not yet. I'm saving that for the reception. She checked her elegant watch. In about an hour, actually. A knock at the door made us all jump. Mother? It was Dad. Are you in there? The photographer wants family photos. Grandmother quickly gathered the documents. Just a moment, dear. She turned to me, her voice low. Monica, I need you to take these to my lawyer's office tonight. Thomas is expecting you. Don't let anyone see you leave. What about the photos? I asked. Oh, I think we can spare you from those, she said with a wink. Sullivan, would you mind creating a small distraction in about 10 minutes? Something to draw attention away from the service elevator. Sullivan grinned. I think I can manage that. We waited until Dad's footsteps faded before opening the door. Grandmother grabbed my arm as I passed. One more thing. That friend of yours, Jolie, she came to see me last week, alone, said she had something to tell me about Riker, but he interrupted before she could. Watch her carefully. I think she's having second thoughts. I nodded, tucking the envelope into my purse. Why are you helping me like this? Her eyes softened. Because you remind me of myself at your age, and because I've watched Riker manipulate this family for too long. It's time someone stood up to him. Back at the reception, I positioned myself near the service elevator, while Sullivan made his way to the dessert table. Right on cue, there was a crash, followed by Sullivan's theatrical apology as the massive wedding cake toppled over. The crowd gasped and surged toward the commotion. I slipped into the elevator unnoticed, my heart pounding. As the doors closed, I caught a glimpse of Jolie watching me from across the room. She gave me the smallest of nods before turning away. The law office was only 3 blocks away. I hurried through the darkening streets, clutching my purse tight. A text from Sullivan lit up my phone. Cake crisis contained. Riker furious. Your grandmother is amazing. She suggested everyone take a break for coffee while they clean up. You've got at least 30 minutes. Thomas, my grandmother's lawyer, was waiting at the door. Right on time, he said, ushering me inside. Let's get these filed before your brother realizes what's happening. As Thomas processed the documents, I thought about Jolie's earlier warning and her conversation with my grandmother. There was more going on here than just the trust. My phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. Meet me in the hotel garden after the reception. Come alone. I'll tell you everything. Jay. I showed the message to Thomas. Should I go? He finished stamping the last document. These are officially filed now. Whatever your brother was planning, he can't touch your inheritance anymore. He handed me a copy. I'd say you're in a strong position to hear what she has to say. I headed back to the hotel, the weight of the documents replaced by a new tension. In an hour, my grandmother would reveal everything to the family. But first, I had a garden meeting to attend, and something told me Jolie's secrets could change everything. I slipped back into the reception just as the staff finished cleaning up the cake disaster. Sullivan appeared at my side, pressing a fresh glass of champagne into my hand. Mission accomplished, he whispered. Documents are safe with Thomas, I confirmed, but we're not done yet. Look at this. I showed him Jolie's text. Could be a trap, he said, frowning. Or she could finally be ready to talk. I watched Jolie across the room, noting how Riker hadn't left her side since I'd returned. His hand rested on her lower back, but it looked less like affection and more like control. Ladies and gentlemen, the DJ's voice boomed through the speakers. The happy couple would like to thank everyone for their patience during our little mishap. And now, it's time for the father-daughter dance. I used the distraction to make my way closer to where Riker stood with our parents. He was speaking in low, urgent tones. Can't find the original documents anywhere, I caught him saying, and grandmother's being impossible. Quiet, Dad hissed, spotting me. Monica, come join us, sweetheart. Actually, Mum cut in, Riker was just telling us about your behavior earlier. Really, Monica, confronting the bride like that? Interesting, I said, locking eyes with my brother. What exactly did Jolie tell you about our conversation? Riker's jaw tightened. She said you were making accusations, trying to ruin her special day. Did she mention what those accusations were about? Before he could answer, grandmother's voice rang out behind us. Milton, dear, could you help me with something in my office? Bring Riker, too. Now, Riker protested, we're in the middle of... Now. Grandmother's tone left no room for argument. As they left, I noticed Jolie slipping through the French doors to the garden. Perfect timing. I waited 30 seconds, then followed. The garden was lit by strings of fairy lights, casting soft shadows among the roses. Jolie stood by the fountain, still in her wedding dress, but looking smaller somehow, more like the girl I used to know. You came, she said, wringing her hands. I wasn't sure you would. Start talking. I never wanted any of this, she burst out. The wedding, the trust, none of it. Riker, he has something on me. On my family. What do you mean? My father's company was failing. Riker offered to help, said he'd invest and save us from bankruptcy. But then he started asking for favors. Small things at first, then bigger ones. She wiped at her eyes. Before I knew it, he owned us. He said if I didn't go along with his plan, he'd destroy everything my father built, and marrying him was part of the plan. He needed a wife to secure his position in the trust, said it had to be someone he could trust to vote his way. She laughed bitterly. Who better than his sister's best friend? Someone who already knew the family. My phone buzzed, a text from Sullivan. Your brother just stormed out of your grandmother's office. He looks ready to kill someone. Get back inside now. Jolie, I said urgently, I need you to be very clear. Are you saying Riker blackmailed you into marriage? There's more, she whispered. I found something in his office last week. Documents about... There you are. Riker's voice cut through the night like a knife. He strode toward us, his face twisted with rage. Having a nice chat? Riker, please, Jolie started. Shut up, he snapped. Both of you get back inside, now. Or what? I challenged, stepping between him and Jolie. Going to threaten us like you threatened her family? His eyes widened, then narrowed dangerously. You have no idea what you're talking about. But if you want to play games, little sister, remember, I always win. Not this time. Grandmother emerged from the shadows, followed by Dad and Sullivan. I heard everything, Riker, and so did your father. Dad looked shattered. Son, is this true? Did you blackmail this girl? Of course not, Riker protested. They're lying, trying to turn you against me. That's enough. Grandmother's voice was steel. Milton, I believe it's time for that announcement I mentioned. And Riker, you might want to call your lawyer. As they led Riker back inside, Sullivan caught my arm. You okay? I watched Jolie sink onto a bench, her wedding dress pooling around her like broken dreams. I will be. But first, I need to help an old friend. The garden fell quiet, except for the splash of the fountain and Jolie's soft sobs. I sat beside her, remembering all our shared secrets, all our promises to always be there for each other. Come on, I said gently. Let's get you out of that dress. We have a lot to talk about. The morning after the wedding, I sat in my grandmother's study surrounded by boxes of old family documents. Jolie was asleep in one of the hotel's suites upstairs, finally peaceful after crying herself to sleep. Sullivan had brought us coffee and pastries before heading to work, promising to return later. Look at this, Grandmother said, sliding a folder across the desk. Bank statements from 3 years ago. Notice anything strange? I scanned the papers, my eyes catching on a series of transfers. These are all going to offshore accounts. Exactly, and look who authorized them. Riker. I sat back, pieces clicking into place. He's been embezzling from the family business. Not just embezzling. Jolie's voice made us both jump. She stood in the doorway, wearing borrowed clothes, her face pale but determined. He's been running a whole shadow operation. That's what I found in his office. Grandmother gestured for her to join us. Tell us everything. It started with small things, Jolie said, sinking into a chair. Using company resources for personal projects. Then he began creating fake subsidiaries, channeling money through them. When my father's company did their audit last year, he found discrepancies. That's when Riker stepped in with his help. And threatened to implicate your father if you didn't cooperate. I finished. Jolie nodded. But last week I found more. He's been falsifying environmental reports for the hotel renovations, cutting corners, using banned materials. If this gets out, it could destroy the company's reputation. A knock at the door interrupted us. Sullivan entered, looking grim. You need to see this, he said, holding up his phone. On the screen was a news article. Harvey Hotel's CEO's son arrested on fraud charges. It's starting, Grandmother said, reaching for her phone as it began to ring. Milton, yes, I've seen it. No, stay where you are. We'll handle this. I pulled up the article on my laptop. Multiple sources claim investigation ongoing. Holy shit, they're saying he's been running this scheme for years. There's more, Jolie said quietly. She pulled a USB drive from her pocket. I copied his files before the wedding. Everything's here. The fake companies, the bribes, all of it. I was going to turn it over to the authorities, but I was scared. You're doing it now, I said firmly. That's what matters. Grandmother hung up the phone. The press will be here soon. Monica, take Jolie to Thomas's office. He'll know how to handle this legally. Sullivan, help me gather these documents. We need to prove we had no knowledge of Riker's activities. As if on cue, my phone lit up with Riker's number. I answered on speaker. You think you've won? His voice was cold, controlled. This is just the beginning, sister dear. I'm not going down alone. Actually, I said, you are. We have everything, Riker. The offshore accounts, the fake subsidiaries, the environmental cover-ups. Jolie gave us the files. Silence, then a harsh laugh. You're bluffing. Want to bet your future on that? I glanced at Jolie, who nodded encouragingly. Turn yourself in, Riker. Make it easier on everyone. You're going to regret this, he snarled, then hung up. He'll try something, Sullivan warned. Let him, Grandmother said, her voice hard. We have the truth on our side now. We spent the next hour organizing documents and making copies. Jolie's hand shook as she wrote out her statement, but her words were clear and damning. Sullivan fielded calls from reporters, while Grandmother coordinated with the company's PR team. I never thought it would end like this, Jolie said quietly, as we prepared to leave for the lawyer's office. I'm so sorry, Monica, for everything. I studied her face, the face of my oldest friend, worn down by months of fear and guilt. We'll get through this. Together this time. My phone buzzed with a text from Dad. Coming to the office. Need to talk to you both. Ready? I asked Jolie. She squared her shoulders. Ready. As we rode the elevator down, I thought about how quickly life could change. Yesterday, I'd watched my brother marry my best friend in what I thought was the ultimate betrayal. Today, we were exposing his crimes and rebuilding broken trust. The lobby was already filling with reporters. Sullivan appeared at my side, creating a path through the crowd. Cars waiting out back, he murmured. Your grandmother's handling the press. Through the glass doors, I could see camera flashes and microphones. Somewhere in the city, my brother was probably watching his carefully constructed world crumble. But for the first time in years, I felt strong, certain. Miss Harvey, a reporter called out, what do you have to say about your brother's arrest? I kept walking, Jolie's hand tight in mine, Sullivan at our backs. We had truth to deliver and justice to serve. The time for hiding was over. The law office buzzed with activity as Thomas's team pored over the documents. Dad sat across from me, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Jolie had just finished giving her statement to the investigators. I should have seen it, Dad said, rubbing his temples. All those times he insisted on handling the finances himself. He fooled everyone, I said, but Dad shook his head. Not everyone. Your grandmother tried to warn me. So did you. He reached across the table and took my hand. I'm sorry I didn't listen. The door opened and Thomas entered with 2 police detectives. We have a situation, he announced. Riker just emptied several accounts before we could freeze them. He's trying to leave the country. What? Dad stood up. How much did he take? Nearly 10 million, one detective said. We've alerted airport security, but... My phone rang. Sullivan. Turn on the news, he said without preamble. Now. I grabbed the remote for Thomas's office TV. The headline made my heart stop. Harvey Hotels. Air holds wife hostage at family estate. The camera showed our family mansion surrounded by police cars. Riker's voice came through in a phone interview. I want safe passage out of the country, or everyone learns exactly how deep the corruption in this family goes. Oh God, Jolie whispered. He's in my old office. That's where I kept my backup files. What backup files? Thomas asked sharply. Everything about his schemes, but also other things. Things about the family that he told me in confidence. Scandals he was saving as leverage. Dad's face went white. The merger scandal from '95. Among others, Jolie said. I'm so sorry. I kept records of everything as insurance. My phone buzzed again. Grandmother. Don't let your father do anything rash. On my way with a solution. We need to end this now, Dad said, reaching for his coat. I'll talk to him. No. I blocked his path. That's exactly what he wants. More family secrets to exploit. The detective's radio crackled. Suspect is demanding to speak with his sister, says he'll only negotiate with her. Everyone turned to look at me. Sullivan, who had just arrived, stepped forward. No way, it's too dangerous. I have to, I said, but I have an idea. I turned to Jolie. Where exactly in your office did you keep those files? Bottom drawer of the oak desk, hidden compartment. Why? I smiled grimly. Because while Riker was busy learning the family business, I was the one who spent summers exploring that house. I know every secret passage, including the one that leads right under that office. Absolutely not, Dad protested, but Thomas was already nodding. We can work with this. Get SWAT in position while she keeps him talking. The next hour was a blur of tactical planning. I wore a wire as Sullivan drove me to the mansion. Police cars lined the street, lights flashing silently. Be careful in there, Sullivan said, gripping my hand. He's desperate. That makes two of us. The negotiator handed me a phone. Riker answered on the first ring. Come alone through the front door, he ordered. Any tricks, and everyone learns just how dirty this family's money really is. I entered slowly, hands raised. Riker stood in the office doorway, looking wild-eyed. A gun trembled in his hand. Just you and me now, sis, he said. Like old times. Let's talk, I said, moving into the office. Through the window, I could see police snipers taking position. I just needed to keep him distracted for 5 more minutes. Nothing to talk about, he spat. You ruined everything. You and that treacherous bitch I married. You did this to yourself, Riker. The fraud, the blackmail, the threats. I did what I had to do. This family never appreciated me, always comparing me to you. Perfect Monica, so honest, so principled. A slight scratching sound came from behind the desk, right on schedule. It's not too late, I said, taking a step closer. Turn yourself in, make it right. Make it right? He laughed manically. I'm going to burn it all down, starting with these. He moved toward the desk drawer. The hidden panel behind him burst open. 2 SWAT officers tackled him as the gun clattered to the floor. More police poured in through the door. No, Riker screamed as they cuffed him. You don't understand. I had to do it. The family legacy is safe, Grandmother said, entering regally. No thanks to you. As they led Riker away, Dad pulled me into a fierce hug. Don't ever do anything like that again. No promises, I said, watching my brother's retreating form. Some things are worth fighting for. Outside, Sullivan waited with Jolie. The morning sun was rising over the mansion, casting long shadows across the lawn. An era was ending, but maybe, just maybe, something better was beginning. 1 week after Riker's arrest, we gathered in Grandmother's office for an emergency board meeting. The room was packed with lawyers, executives, and family members. Jolie sat beside me, her annulment papers freshly signed. The press is having a field day, Thomas said, spreading newspapers across the conference table. Headlines screamed about scandal and betrayal. We need to address this head-on. I agree, Grandmother said, standing at the head of the table. Which is why I've called everyone here. It's time for changes. She nodded to her assistant, who distributed thick folders to everyone present. These documents outline our new corporate structure, she continued. Complete transparency, enhanced oversight, and... She paused, smiling at me. New leadership. Dad cleared his throat. Mother, are you sure about this? Absolutely. She turned to address the room. Effective immediately, I'm stepping down as CEO. Monica will take my place, with Jolie heading our legal compliance department. The room erupted in murmurs. I sat frozen, feeling every eye turn to me. With all due respect, one of the older board members spoke up. Miss Harvey has no experience running a hotel chain. No, Grandmother agreed. But she has something more valuable, integrity, and she won't be alone. She gestured to Sullivan, who stood by the door. Mr. Hart has agreed to join us as CFO, bringing his expertise in corporate restructuring. Sullivan stepped forward. I've reviewed the books. With proper management and transparency, we can recover from this scandal stronger than ever. The vote must be unanimous, Thomas reminded everyone. As per company bylaws. I stood up, heart pounding, but voice steady. I know many of you have doubts. You're wondering if I can handle this responsibility. But I've watched this company my whole life. I've seen its potential and its flaws. I'm not my brother. I don't want power for power's sake. I want to rebuild what he nearly destroyed. Jolie stood next to me. I'll testify to everything Riker did, every scheme, every cover-up. Then I'll help create safeguards to ensure it never happens again. The boardroom fell silent. Grandmother picked up her gavel. All in favor? Hands rose slowly at first, then faster. Dad's went up last, his eyes shining with tears. Unanimous, Grandmother declared, banging the gavel. Congratulations, CEO Harvey. The next hour was a blur of signatures and handshakes. As the room cleared, Sullivan pulled me aside. You ready for this? Ask me again in a year, I said, managing a shaky laugh. Monica. Dad approached, looking uncertain. I owe you an apology. Many apologies, actually. I was so focused on preserving the family legacy, I couldn't see who was really protecting it. We all made mistakes, I said, but we can fix them, together. A commotion outside drew our attention. Through the glass walls, we could see reporters gathering in the lobby. Your first challenge as CEO, Grandmother said, straightening my jacket. Time to face the press. Jolie handed me a folder. The statement we prepared. But maybe speak from the heart instead. I took a deep breath and walked to the elevator, Sullivan and Jolie flanking me. The doors opened to camera flashes and shouted questions. Miss Harvey, how do you respond to accusations that your brother's actions indicate systemic corruption? What changes can we expect under your leadership? I stepped up to the microphones, feeling the weight of generations of Harvey business leaders behind me. Today marks a new chapter for our company, I began. One built on transparency, accountability, and trust. My brother betrayed those values, but his actions don't define us. What defines us is how we move forward. More questions flew, but one cut through the noise. How can the public trust another Harvey after what happened? Because I'm not just another Harvey, I said firmly. I'm the Harvey who helped expose the truth, the Harvey who chose integrity over power, and I'm the Harvey who promises you this. Every decision I make will be in the light, every action open to scrutiny. Sullivan squeezed my shoulder supportively as cameras flashed. Now, I continued, I'll take your questions. All of them, because that's how we rebuild trust, one honest answer at a time. As reporters raised their hands, I caught Grandmother's proud smile from across the lobby. Dad stood beside her, nodding encouragingly. Jolie was already taking notes, preparing for the work ahead. This wasn't the family drama I'd expected when I received that wedding invitation. But maybe it was the one we needed, a chance to tear down the old facades and build something real in their place. First question, I said, pointing to a reporter. Let's begin. The autumn breeze rustled through the courtyard as I unlocked the heavy doors of the Harvey Hotel's main entrance. Dawn was just breaking, painting the sky in soft pinks and golds. These quiet moments before the day began had become my favorite part of being CEO. You're here early, Sullivan said, appearing with 2 coffee cups. He handed me one and fell into step beside me. Couldn't sleep. Today's the day. We rode the elevator to the top floor, where Jolie was already waiting. Legal documents spread across the conference table. Everything's ready, she said, looking up. The prosecutor called. Riker's taking the plea deal. I sank into a chair, emotion swirling. How long? 8 years minimum, plus full restitution. She pushed a newspaper across the table. But that's not why I called you both here so early. Look at this. The headline read, Harvey Hotels, named Most Transparent Corporation of the Year. Below was a photo of our leadership team, me, Sullivan, Jolie, and Grandmother, at the opening of our newest location. Your grandmother's going to be insufferably proud, Sullivan said, grinning. Speaking of, Jolie nodded toward the door where Grandmother stood, Dad beside her. I thought I might find you all here, grandmother said, entering regally. Big day. I just got off the phone with the prison, Dad said quietly. Riker wants to see you, Monica, before he signs the plea. The room fell silent. I felt Sullivan tense beside me. You don't have to go, he said. Yes, I do. I stood up. This needs to end properly. The prison visiting room was cold and sterile. Riker sat behind the glass, orange jumpsuit hanging loose on his frame. He looked smaller somehow, less threatening. Hello, sister, he said as I sat down. Come to gloat? No, I came to listen. He laughed bitterly. To what? My apology? My excuses? To whatever you need to say before you sign that plea. His facade cracked slightly. I saw the papers. Company's doing well under your leadership. It is. I never thought. He paused, struggling. You were always the good one, the honest one. I hated that about you, but now I understand why grandmother chose you. She didn't choose me, Riker. I chose to be trustworthy. You could have two. Too late for that now. He picked up the plea papers. 8 years is a long time. Use it well, I said, standing. Goodbye, brother. Back at the hotel, I found everyone in my office. Sullivan had ordered breakfast, and Jolie was showing Dad how to use the new transparency reporting software. How did it go? Grandmother asked softly. He signed the plea. I picked up a pastry. It's over. Not over, she corrected. Just beginning. The board approved your proposal for the charitable foundation. The one using recovered funds to help victims of corporate fraud? Dad asked. Brilliant idea. Actually, I said, that was Jolie's idea. Jolie blushed. Well, after experiencing it firsthand. Speaking of ideas, Sullivan interrupted, pulling out his tablet. Wait until you see the designs for the new employee profit-sharing program. As they launched into an animated discussion about the future, I walked to the window. Below, the city was coming alive. Hotel guests streamed through the lobby. Employees greeted each other. Life moved forward. My phone buzzed, a text from Thomas. Plea officially filed. It's done. Monica, Sullivan appeared at my side. Everyone's waiting. We have that meeting about expanding the educational scholarship program. I turned back to my family. Not just blood relatives, but the family we'd chosen and built. Dad arguing good-naturedly with Jolie about legal terminology. Grandmother pretending not to be proud of everything we'd accomplished. Sullivan, steady and supportive as always. Before we start, I said, getting their attention, I want to thank you all. A few months ago, I thought I'd lost everything. My best friend, my brother, my place in this family. Instead, I found something better, something real. Oh, darling, Grandmother said, you never lost your place. You just needed to claim it. And now that you have, Dad added, the company's stronger than ever. To new beginnings, Jolie proposed, raising her coffee cup. To family, Sullivan added, the kind you choose. To truth, I finished, joining their toast. Outside my office, phones rang and employees bustled. There were meetings to attend, decisions to make, a legacy to rebuild. But in that moment, surrounded by people I trusted, I knew we'd face it all together. Not as the broken family from that wedding day, but as something stronger, a family forged by truth, tested by fire, and finally whole.
The crystal champagne flute trembled in my hand as I watched my brother Ryan work the crowd at his own surprise birthday party. Every fake laugh, every calculated gesture. It was all so perfectly orchestrated, just like everything else in his charmed life. Speech! Speech! The crowd chanted, and Ryan stepped onto the small platform we'd set up in the garden, his perfect white teeth gleaming under the string lights. I'm Neve, the sister who planned this whole affair, though you wouldn't know it from the way our parents were fawning over Ryan like he'd personally hung the moon. 38 years old and still their golden child. I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight, Ryan began, his voice carrying that practiced warmth that made everyone lean in closer. Especially my wonderful sister who put this all together. The crowd turned to me with polite applause. I raised my glass, forcing a smile that felt like it might crack my face. That's when I noticed Landon, Ryan's business partner, slipping through the crowd toward the house. Something about his urgency made my event planner's instincts tingle. Ryan's always been an inspiration, our father announced, joining him on the platform. From his first business venture to his latest charity initiative, a commotion from the house cut him off. Landon burst back into the garden, his face ashen. "Ryan, we need you inside. Now." The perfect smile faltered for just a second. I watched my brother's jaw tighten as he excused himself, following Landon with measured steps that barely contained his tension. "Everything okay?" I called after them, already moving to damage control mode. "Stay here," Ryan snapped, not even turning around. I waited exactly 30 seconds before following them inside. The sounds of the party faded as I approached Ryan's home office, replaced by harsh whispers and what sounded like someone throwing things. "How did they get these numbers?" Ryan's voice, stripped of its usual charm, sounded dangerous. "Who else knows?" "The email went to everyone on the investor list," Landon replied. "We need to get ahead of this before—" I pushed the door open. Papers were scattered across the floor, Ryan's laptop screen displaying what looked like financial documents. Both men whirled to face me, and for a moment, I saw something I'd never seen in my brother's eyes before. Fear. "Get out," Ryan said, but I was already scanning the documents visible on his screen. Numbers jumped out at me. Massive discrepancies, redirected funds, fabricated reports. "The charity initiative," I said slowly, pieces clicking into place. "It's all fake, isn't it?" "This doesn't concern you." Landon stepped forward, trying to block my view. "Like hell it doesn't. I just spent weeks planning this party, inviting half of your investors, vouching for your character. And we're grateful," Ryan cut in, his smooth mask sliding back into place. "But this is just a minor accounting issue. Nothing for you to worry about." I laughed, the sound harsh and foreign in my throat. "Minor? Those numbers look like fraud to me, Ryan. The kind that puts people in prison." "You always were quick to judge," he said, his voice dropping to that quiet tone that used to make me feel 2 inches tall when we were kids. "Always thinking the worst of me. But what would you know about running a business? Planning parties isn't exactly high finance." The familiar sting of his dismissal hit its mark, but this time, something else rose up alongside it. Rage, maybe. Or clarity. "I know enough to recognize when I'm being used," I said. "You wanted me to plan this party, invite all these people just so you could control the narrative when this broke, didn't you?" His silence was answer enough. Outside, the party continued, oblivious to the bomb that had just detonated in this room. I turned to leave, my mind already racing with implications, but Ryan's hand caught my arm. "Neve," he said softly. "Family protects family. You understand that, right?" I looked at his hand on my arm, then up into those eyes that had always known exactly how to manipulate me. "Funny," I replied, pulling free. "I don't remember that rule applying when I needed protection." I walked out of the office, leaving my brother and his partner to their crisis. The party lights seemed harsher now, the laughter more hollow. I had a choice to make, and for the first time in my life, I knew exactly what I was going to do about my perfect brother. The family dinner table had always been a battlefield. Tonight, 3 days after Ryan's party disaster, the tension was thick enough to cut with the expensive silver knife my mother insisted on using for these occasions. "The media's getting it all wrong," my father said, cutting into his steak. "These accusations against Ryan's foundation are completely baseless." I stabbed at my salad, watching Ryan masterfully spin his story. He sat at his usual place of honor, Landon beside him, both of them the picture of concerned businessmen wrongfully accused. "It's just a clerical error," Ryan explained, his voice carrying that perfect note of measured concern. "Our accountants are already sorting it out. The real tragedy is how this affects the children our foundation supports." My mother reached across the table to squeeze his hand. "Of course they are, darling. Anyone who knows you knows you'd never—" "Actually," I interrupted, setting down my fork, "I'd love to hear more about these children. Which programs specifically are at risk?" The silence that followed was delicious. Ryan's eyes met mine, a flash of warning in them. Neve? My father's tone carried that familiar edge of disappointment. This isn't the time for interrogations. No? I smiled, remembering the documents I'd seen on Ryan's computer. I just think it's interesting that none of the press releases mention any specific programs or beneficiaries. Landon cleared his throat. We maintain privacy to protect the children, right? I took a sip of wine. How convenient. I've been meaning to ask. Ryan smoothly changed the subject. How's the Collins account going? I heard there were some concerns about your proposal. My hand tightened around the wine glass. Mr. Collins was my biggest potential client, and I'd been pursuing his business for months. The fact that Ryan knew about any concerns meant he'd been talking to people he shouldn't. My proposal is fine, I said evenly, unless someone's been spreading rumors. Just looking out for you, sis, like always. Ryan's smile didn't reach his eyes. Remember that summer you tried to start your own marketing firm? If I hadn't stepped in. You mean when you told all your contacts I was unstable and unreliable? The words burst out before I could stop them. Yeah, that was real brotherly of you. Never. My mother's shock was perfectly practiced. Your brother was protecting you from making a terrible mistake. You weren't ready. I had 3 major clients lined up. I shot back, until they mysteriously backed out after meetings with Ryan. You're being paranoid. Ryan sighed, playing to his audience. Mom, Dad, I'm worried about her. She's been acting strange ever since the party. Because I saw what was on your computer? What computer? My father demanded. Nothing, Ryan and I said simultaneously, our eyes locked in silent warfare. Landon stood suddenly. I think it's time we discuss the real reason we called this dinner. He pulled out an envelope, sliding it across the table to me. We want to hire you, Neve, for a series of events to restore confidence in the foundation. I stared at the envelope, understanding dawning. You want me to help cover this up? We want you to help family, my father corrected. This could be good for everyone. Your business would benefit from the exposure. My business? I laughed, the sound harsh and bitter. My business that I built after Ryan sabotaged my first attempt? That business? Now you're just being dramatic, Ryan said softly. Take the job, Nevi. Show everyone you can be a team player for once. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. A team player? Like when I gave up my college fund so you could start your first business? Or when I worked 2 jobs to help Mom and Dad after your failed venture nearly bankrupted them? That's enough. My father's fist hit the table. Your brother has always looked out for this family. If you can't be grateful... Grateful? The word tasted like poison. For what? The way he's looking out for me now? Trying to make me complicit in whatever fraud he's running? Ryan's mask slipped for just a second, showing something ugly underneath. Be very careful what you're implying, sister dear. I grabbed my purse, heading for the door. Behind me, I heard my mother's disappointed sigh, my father's angry muttering. But it was Ryan's voice that followed me out. Think about the offer, Neve. Family should stick together, especially when things get difficult. I didn't turn around, but I felt his threat settle like ice in my stomach. As I walked to my car, I pulled out my phone and dialed. Maya? Remember that favor you owe me? I need everything you can find on Ryan's foundation. Everything. Maya's research landed in my inbox at 3 a.m, but I was already awake, reviewing the footage from Ryan's live interview. My brother sat there, perfectly composed in his tailored suit, spinning a story about financial transparency and commitment to charity. The morning news show host leaned forward, sympathetic. These allegations must be difficult for your family. They are. Ryan's voice cracked just enough to seem genuine. Especially since... He paused, masterfully manufacturing reluctance. Since what, Mr. Brooks? My phone buzzed. Maya, you need to turn this off. Now. But I couldn't. I watched paralyzed as my brother destroyed me on national television, since discovering my own sister might be involved in spreading these rumors. Ryan's face showed perfect concern. Nevai, she's always struggled with our family dynamic. When she started making accusations about the foundation's finances, we realized she might need help. The coffee mug slipped from my hand, shattering on the floor. On screen, the host's expression shifted to concerned fascination. Are you saying your sister is behind these allegations? I hate to say this publicly, Ryan continued, but her behavior has become increasingly erratic. She's been jealous of the foundation's success, and when we wouldn't hire her company for our events, my phone rang. Maya. He's lying, I said immediately. I know, but that's not why I'm calling. Check the files I sent, page 16. I pulled up Maya's research while Ryan continued destroying my reputation on national television. The document was a series of bank transfers, dates, amounts. I don't understand what I'm looking at. The scandal about the foundation? They leaked it themselves. Look at the timestamps. They knew exactly when those financial records would go public. They planned it. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. The surprise party, the convenient discovery of the financial irregularities, Ryan's perfect response, and now this interview. They're using me as a scapegoat, I whispered. It gets worse. Check your email. A new message popped up from Mr. Collins's office. Subject line, contract termination. The phone slipped from my fingers as I opened it. Professional concerns, recent developments, reputation risks. My doorbell rang, making me jump. Through the window, I saw news vans pulling up outside my house. Maya, I have to go. Don't talk to them. And Nevai, there's something else in those files you need to see. I hung up as pounding started on my door. My phone exploded with notifications, messages, calls, social media alerts. Through my window, I watched reporters setting up cameras. Another text from Maya. Check the transfer dates against your old marketing firm's closure. With shaking hands, I scrolled through the documents. The dates aligned perfectly. Large sums moving through shell companies, ending up in accounts that had pressured my former clients to drop me. All traced back to Ryan and Landon's holding company. The doorbell rang again. Through the peephole, I saw Landon standing there, alone. I know you're home, Neve, he called out. Let's talk about damage control. I pressed my back against the door, heart pounding. Go away. Can't do that. Your brother's concerned about you. We all are. His voice dripped with fake sincerity. The media's going to run with this story either way. We can help you frame it. Get you the help you need. The help I need? I laughed, the sound bordering on hysterical. Like the help you gave my marketing firm? A pause. I don't know what you think you found. I found everything, Landon. The transfers, the shell companies, the manufactured scandal, it's all here. Another pause, longer this time. When he spoke again, his voice had lost its false concern. Be smart about this, Neve. You're already looking unstable to the media. If you start throwing around conspiracy theories... My phone buzzed again. Maya. Don't tell them what you know. There's more. Call me. Think about your business. Landon continued. Your future. We can still fix this. I looked at my phone, at the email from Mr. Collins, at the growing media circus outside my house. Years of Ryan's manipulation, of being the family disappointment, of sacrificing everything while he took more and more. You're right, I said finally. We should talk about fixing this. Smart girl. I'll tell them you're coming out to make a statement. I watched through the window as Landon approached the reporters, my hands clenching into fists. They wanted a statement? I was about to give them one they'd never forget. The cafe was nearly empty when Aunt Clara slid into the booth across from me, her face drawn with worry. 3 days had passed since Ryan's interview, and my phone hadn't stopped ringing with canceled contracts. You shouldn't have come alone, she said, glancing around. Not after what happened at the press conference. I touched my split lip, still tender from where security had escorted me away from the microphones. The headlines had been brutal. Unstable sister attacks philanthropist brother. I needed to hear it from you, I said, about the adoption papers Maya found. Clara's hands trembled as she pulled out a yellowed envelope. I was there when your parents brought Ryan home. They made everyone swear to keep it quiet. Wanted him to feel like he truly belonged. 32 years, I whispered. All those times they said I needed to be more like my brother, and he wasn't even... Blood doesn't make family, Neve. No, lies make family, right? I pushed away my untouched coffee. Did Ryan know? He found out the summer before your marketing firm launched. Clara wouldn't meet my eyes. That's why he... The pieces clicked into place. Ryan's sudden interest in my business ventures. The sabotage. His desperate need to maintain control. My phone buzzed. Maya again. I'd been avoiding her calls since the press conference disaster, but this time I glimpsed the message preview. Collins called. You need to see this. I have to go. I stood, but Clara caught my wrist. There's more. The foundation scandal? It's worse than you think. Ryan isn't just moving money around. He's been using it to track down his birth parents. The world tilted sideways. What? He found them last month. They're dead. Car accident years ago. But they had another son, younger. My phone buzzed again. Maya. Urgent. Colin's exposing everything tomorrow. I don't understand, I said, though part of me was beginning to. What does this have to do with... Landon Reed isn't just Ryan's business partner, Clara said softly. He's Ryan's biological brother. The cafe door chimed. Through the window, I saw a familiar car pull up. Ryan's Mercedes. They've been watching me. Clara's voice shook. I shouldn't have told you, but after what they did to your business, your reputation... Get out the back, I interrupted, already moving. Now. We slipped through the kitchen just as Ryan entered the cafe. Through the back window, I watched him scan the empty booth, his face darkening. My phone rang. Mr. Collins himself this time. Miss Brooks. His voice was clipped. I've received some interesting documentation about your brother's foundation, and about what really happened to your marketing firm. Mr. Collins, I can explain. I'm holding a press conference tomorrow morning. Given our previous conversation, I thought you deserved advance notice. The line went dead. Beside me, Clara clutched her purse, looking terrified. They won't let you expose them, she whispered. They've worked too hard to keep this hidden. My phone lit up with a text from Ryan. We need to talk. Now. Another from Landon. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I thought about the years of manipulation, the calculated destruction of my business, the careful orchestration of my public humiliation, all to protect their secret, to maintain their control. What are you going to do? Clara asked. Through the window, I watched Ryan emerge from the cafe, speaking urgently into his phone. His perfectly crafted world was about to shatter, just like he'd shattered mine. I'm going to give them exactly what they want, I said, a plan forming. A family reunion. Neve, they're dangerous, the things they've done. Trust me. I pulled out my phone, typing a response to Ryan. I learned from the best. To Ryan, fine. Tonight, the foundation office, just us. His reply came instantly. 8 p.m. Come alone. I turned to Clara. I need everything you have. Documents, photos, anything about the adoption and their real parents. What are you planning? I thought about the security cameras in Ryan's office, about Maya's hacking skills, about the press conference tomorrow morning. The truth, I said, watching Ryan's car pull away. Whether they're ready for it or not, my phone buzzed one last time. Maya. Got into their system. You won't believe what I found. I smiled, feeling the weight of years of lies and manipulation finally shifting into something else. Something like power. Game on, brother, I whispered. Game on. The foundation's office gleamed with success and old money, all polished marble and mahogany. At 7:55 p.m., I stood in Ryan's empty office, Maya's latest findings burning a hole in my phone. The security cameras were already looping old footage. Her gift to me. "You're early." Ryan's voice made me jump. He stood in the doorway, Landon a shadow behind him. "Always so eager to please. Funny, I remember you teaching me that." I turned, noting how they positioned themselves between me and the door. "Where are the adoption papers, Ryan?" His smile flickered. "Aunt Clara's been talking. She's not the only one." I pulled out my phone, watching their reflections in the window. "Your birth parents' accident? Not very accidental, was it?" Landon stepped forward, but Ryan held up a hand. "What exactly do you think you know?" "I know you found them 6 months before they died. I know about the insurance policy that funded your first real business venture." I met his eyes in the glass. "I know they were going to expose you." "Careful, sister." The word dripped with venom. "You're threading dangerous ground." "Am I still your sister? Or just another loose end?" "You're whatever we need you to be." Landon cut in. "Like tomorrow's press conference. You're going to admit to fabricating evidence against the Foundation. Mental breakdown, stress-induced paranoia, take your pick." I laughed, the sound harsh in the quiet office. "That's not happening." "No?" Ryan moved closer. "What about Mr. Collins? Would be a shame if his wife learned about those private meetings you've been having." "You mean the ones where he showed me proof of your embezzlement?" "Proof?" Landon scoffed. "Your word against ours. Again. How did that work out last time?" My hand tightened around my phone. "Things are different now." "Are they?" Ryan's voice softened dangerously. "You're still the unstable little sister, desperate for attention. Who's going to believe you?" "The FBI might." I watched their reflections freeze. Maya found the offshore accounts. The real ones, not your decoys. She's been tracking your movements for weeks. Landon lunged forward, but I was ready. The taser in my purse connected with his chest, sending him sprawling. "You really think this ends with us in handcuffs?" Ryan hadn't moved, his calm more terrifying than Landon's aggression. "We own this city, Neve. The media, the police, even your precious Mr. Collins. One phone call and what? You'll destroy me again?" I turned to face him fully. "Go ahead. But first, explain something. Why keep me around at all? Why not destroy me completely years ago?" Something flickered in his eyes. Uncertainty? Fear? "Your family." "No, I'm your shield. Your perfect cover story. The unstable sister makes the perfect brother look even better, doesn't she?" "You don't understand. I understand everything now. The adoption, the accident, the foundation. It's all about control. But you missed something, Ryan. You taught me too well." My phone buzzed. Maya's signal. Somewhere in the building, hard drives were being wiped, data transferred, evidence secured. "What did you do?" Landon groaned from the floor. "Me? Nothing." I stepped over him toward the door. "But in about 30 seconds, every major news outlet will receive proof of your involvement in your birth parents' death. Funny how karma works." Ryan's mask finally cracked. "You're bluffing." "Am I? You taught me everything about manipulation, remember? About playing the long game?" I reached the doorway. "Check your phone." They both grabbed their phones as headlines started flooding in. Ryan's face went ash white. "You can't..." "Can't what? Destroy my family? Ruin someone's life?" I smiled, feeling years of pain crystallize into something harder. "Watch me." "We'll destroy you." Landon snarled, struggling to his feet. "You already tried that. My turn now." Ryan stepped toward me, desperation replacing his usual control. "Neva, wait. We can fix this. Together, like real family." I paused in the doorway, thinking of all the years I'd wanted to hear those words. That's the difference between us, Ryan. I finally learned real family doesn't need fixing. As I walked away, their phones kept buzzing with notifications, each one another nail in their carefully constructed coffin. Tomorrow's press conference would still happen, but not the way they planned. Sometimes karma needs a little push, and I'd learned from the best how to make it hurt. The charity gala was my masterpiece of revenge, every detail calculated for maximum impact. Crystal champagne flutes caught the light just right, making the ballroom sparkle like broken glass. Perfect, considering what was about to shatter. "Everything's ready," Maya whispered, sliding past with the tablet. "Live stream connections confirmed. Press is in position." I nodded, watching Ryan work the crowd. He looked almost normal, as if last night's confrontation had never happened. Almost, except for the slight tremor in his hands as he lifted his glass. "Quite the turnout." Mr. Collins appeared at my elbow. "Though I'm surprised you're still running this event, given the circumstances." "Professional obligation," I said, the words tasting bitter. "Besides, the foundation's donors deserve to know where their money's really going." The lights dimmed right on schedule. Ryan took the stage, Landon hovering nearby like a well-dressed shadow. "Thank you all for coming," Ryan began, his charm dialed to maximum. "Tonight we celebrate." The screens behind him flickered to life. Not with the planned foundation video, but with security footage of Ryan meeting his birth parents. Audio crackled through the speakers. "You can't threaten me." Ryan's recorded voice filled the room. "I've worked too hard." The footage cut out. Every screen went black. "Technical difficulties," Landon announced smoothly, but I was already moving toward the control room. Maya met me halfway. "They've hijacked the system. Someone must have warned them." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Check your email." The attachment was a video. Security footage from my office last week. Me, meeting with Mr. Collins, discussing plans to expose Ryan. But the audio had been altered, making it sound like we were conspiring to embezzle from his company. "Clever." Ryan's voice behind me made my blood freeze. "Using my own tactics against me, but you forgot something crucial." The ballroom's screens came back to life, this time showing doctored footage of me accepting bribes, falsifying documents, all perfectly edited to seem real. "What did you do?" I whispered. "Insurance policy." Landon appeared on my other side. "Been collecting it for years, just in case." The room erupted in murmurs as more footage played. Years of carefully edited moments, all painting me as the corrupt one, the manipulator, the fraud. "Miss Brooks," Mr. Collins's voice cut through the chaos. "I think we need to discuss the terms of our arrangement." "This isn't, I can explain." "Save it for the authorities," he said coldly. "They're very interested in these recordings." Security guards appeared at the doors, not the ones I'd hired, Ryan's people. Maya was nowhere in sight. "You really thought you could beat me at my own game?" Ryan's whisper was almost gentle. "I invented these plays, Neve. Every move you made, I was 3 steps ahead." "The birth parents were a trap. I knew Aunt Clara would tell you. Knew you'd try to use it." He smiled, that perfect practice smile. "Thank you for being so predictable." The guards were moving through the crowd now. My phone buzzed again. Maya. "They're blocking all outgoing communications. Can't upload the real evidence." "You have a choice," Landon said quietly. "Take the fall publicly, claim mental instability, or face federal charges. Either way, your reputation is finished." The room spun slightly. Everything I'd planned, every piece of evidence I'd gathered, all turned against me with surgical precision. Even the venue's security cameras were under their control, recording what would look like my public meltdown. "Why?" I managed. "Why go to all this trouble?" "Because you needed to learn." Ryan's voice hardened. "Family protects family. Cross that line and there are consequences." The guards were getting closer. My phone kept buzzing. Probably Maya trying to warn me, but it didn't matter now. Ryan had won. Again. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ryan addressed the crowd, his voice carrying perfectly. "I'm afraid my sister has been struggling with some issues. Tonight's unfortunate display." I ran. Past the guards, through the kitchen, out into the cold night air. Behind me, I heard Ryan's voice on the speakers, spinning the story perfectly. The tragic tale of a jealous sister's mental breakdown. My phone lit up one last time. An email from my biggest client canceling all contracts. As I stood there, watching my career and reputation crumble in real time, I finally understood what Ryan had known all along. In the game of revenge, the winner isn't the one with the truth. It's the one who tells the better story. And my brother had just written my ending. 3 days after my public humiliation, I sat in my empty office, boxing up client files. The last remnants of my career, packed away in cardboard. My phone buzzed. Maya's 20th call today. This time, I answered. "Turn on the news," she said without preamble. Now, I flicked on the small TV I used for event coverage. Ryan stood at a podium outside his foundation's headquarters, Landon by his side. "In light of recent events," Ryan was saying, "we're announcing an expansion of our charitable work. The new mental health initiative will help families dealing with..." The screen went black. Then blue. Then filled with security footage. Not the doctored versions from the gala, but raw feeds. Ryan and Landon in their office discussing the manufactured scandal. Planning my downfall. Destroying evidence. "What is this?" I whispered into the phone. "Remember Mr. Lee? Your neighbor with the obsessive security system?" Maya's voice held a hint of triumph. "Turns out he caught some interesting footage of Ryan and Landon breaking into your office last week to plant evidence." A pounding on my office door made me jump. Through the frosted glass, I saw Ryan's silhouette. "They can't stop the feed," Maya continued. "It's going to every major network, social media platform, and news outlet simultaneously. I'll call you back." The door burst open. Ryan's perfect facade had cracked completely, his face twisted with rage. "Where is it?" he demanded. "The server controlling the broadcast." "I don't know what you're talking about." I stood slowly, my hand sliding into my desk drawer where the final piece of evidence waited. "Having technical difficulties with your press conference?" "This is your last chance." Landon appeared behind him, phone in hand. "Our IT team can trace the source." "To where? Maya's network of proxy servers? Good luck." I pulled out a USB drive. "Looking for this?" Ryan lunged forward, but I was ready. "Careful, brother. One wrong move and every financial record, every doctored document, every secret you've buried goes public, including the real story about your birth parents." "You're bluffing." But his voice wavered. "We destroyed everything. Did you? Or did you destroy what you thought was everything?" I smiled, channeling his own practice charm. "You taught me well, remember? Always have a backup plan." "We'll recover," Landon said, but he was watching the TV where more damning footage played. "We always do." "Not this time." I held up my phone, showing them the incoming messages. "Mr. Collins sends his regards. Seems he doesn't appreciate being manipulated. The FBI is very interested in his statement." Ryan's mask cracked completely. "You don't understand what you've done. The people we owe money to? The ones you were paying off with charity funds?" I stepped closer. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you tried to destroy me. Again." "We're family." He tried, desperation replacing manipulation. "No, Ryan, we're not. We never were." I tossed the USB drive to Landon. "That's blank, by the way. The real files went live an hour ago." The sound of sirens filtered through my office windows. Ryan's phone buzzed continuously. Probably his lawyers, his investors, his carefully cultivated network all abandoning ship. "You could have had everything," he said quietly, "if you just played your role." "That was your mistake," I replied, thinking I was still playing a role. The sirens grew louder. Landon grabbed Ryan's arm. "We need to go, now." "It won't stick," Ryan said, but his confidence was gone. "We'll find a way to spin this." "Goodbye, Ryan." I sat back down at my desk, starting to unpack the boxes. "Give my regards to our parents. I'm sure they'll find a way to blame this on me too." They fled as red and blue lights filled the windows. I watched them go, feeling strangely empty. On TV, their carefully constructed world continued to unravel in high definition. My phone buzzed. Mr. Collins. My wife's 50th birthday still needs planning, if you're interested. Then Maya. Need help unpacking those boxes? I looked around my office at the career I'd built, lost and reclaimed. At the evidence of a life lived in someone else's shadow, now finally stepping into the light. Actually, I texted back, I think it's time for a renovation. Outside, karma was finally catching up with Ryan and Landon. But inside, for the first time in my life, I felt free of their shadow. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone else's world, it's about rebuilding your own. The Collins anniversary celebration sparkled with understated elegance. My first major event since Ryan's arrest. No crystal champagne flutes this time. Sometimes simple wine glasses tell a better story. Perfect, as always, Mr. Collins said, watching his wife laugh with guests. Though I admit I had doubts after everything. So did I admitted, adjusting a centerpiece. The newspaper on my desk that morning had featured Ryan and Landon's sentencing. 5 to 7 years, plus restitution to their victims. My phone buzzed. Aunt Clara. Your parents want to meet. To explain. I slipped the phone away unanswered. Some explanations came too late. Miss Brooks? Sophie, the venue owner, approached with a tablet. There's someone asking to see you. Says it's urgent. In the venue's office, Landon's sister waited. She looked smaller somehow, without her brother's shadow looming nearby. I found this. She held out a worn envelope, while clearing out their office. Inside was a photograph I'd never seen. Ryan, maybe 7 years old, holding a baby. Me. On the back, in unfamiliar handwriting. My children, finally together. It was in their birth mother's diary. Landon's sister said quietly. She wanted to adopt you too, but your parents wouldn't give you up. Ryan knew. All these years he knew you were supposed to be his real sister. The photo trembled in my hands. Why are you showing me this? Because you deserve to know why he couldn't let you go. Why he had to control everything. She stood to leave. He loved you, in his way. He just didn't know how to love without owning. Through the office window, I watched the party continue. Dozens of people celebrating love that had lasted through decades of choices, mistakes, and forgiveness. Tell him, I said finally. I hope he finds what he's looking for. Back in the ballroom, Maya intercepted me. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. Maybe I have. I handed her the photo. Add it to the archive? She nodded, understanding. We'd been documenting everything, not for revenge anymore, but for truth. Sometimes healing started with having proof that your pain was real. Neve? Mr. Collins called out. We're ready for the toast. I moved through the crowd, past faces that had once witnessed my humiliation at Ryan's gala, now smiling with genuine warmth. Amazing how quickly people forgot old scandals when new ones emerged. The microphone felt different in my hand this time. No revenge to orchestrate, no lies to expose. Just a moment to celebrate something real. To love that endures. I raised my simple wine glass. And to the families we choose. Later, as the last guests departed, I found the photo on my desk. Maya had added a sticky note. Some stories don't need an ending to be over. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Aunt Clara. He asked about you today. Said he's sorry. I thought about Ryan sitting in his cell, finally facing a truth he couldn't manipulate. About Landon, separated from his partner in crime, learning what loyalty really meant. About our parents, left to question every choice that led to this moment. The venue's lights dimmed automatically, leaving me in comfortable shadow. I picked up the photo, studying the joy on young Ryan's face as he held his baby sister. The promise of what could have been. I didn't tear it up. Didn't file it away with the evidence. Instead, I left it on Sophie's desk with a note. For your wall of memories. Sometimes the best stories are the ones we choose not to finish. Outside, the night air carried the scent of approaching rain. Maya waited by her car. Ready to go? The team's waiting to celebrate. I looked back at the venue one last time. At the simple elegance that had replaced crystal perfection. At the honest success built from the ashes of revenge. Actually, I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. I think I'll walk. Sometimes the heaviest shadows are the ones we choose to carry, and sometimes letting them go is the sweetest revenge of all. I stepped into the night, leaving the photo and its unfinished story behind. Ahead, the city lights beckoned with possibilities that had nothing to do with the past. It was time to plan something new.